5, 4. Gather around, freaks. This week we're digging a megatunnel through the internet and relocating the dirt and mud in order to bring you a brand new episode. It's still Steve's birthday month, so gather around the internet ant farm and gather around the internet colony because it's time for another episode of Hey, did you see this one?
Once upon a time, movie magic was dwindling, and things were changing. And this month, Stephen Waters and Hey, did you see this one? Would like to take you back there. Take you on a trip down memory lane to revisit some of their favorite movies from the late 1900s. From cult classics to box office hits, they'll explore the mysticism of this iconic era of film history. Tune in to relive the magic of the previous century in the nostalgic 90s.
Just got hot. Shut the up and call me when she shows. Why the hell you want to be a cop in? Oh, forget her ass. Got milk?
Yeah, I got some milk. Shit, you want some milk? I got a whole bunch of milk.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hey, did you see this one? The weekly review, reaction, roundtable discussion podcast, where we just have to ask the question, hey, did you see this one? On this show, we take a film, completely pull it apart, leave no stone unturned, or dirt unturned this week.
Sweet hand acting. I like
as
that.
always, we are your hosts. I'm Jason R. Phillips. I'm joined by Stephen Z. Waters.
Oh. That's the obvious joke I should have done. Steven. I'm a fool.
I just put together why I know it's the late 90s, so Z instead of S everywhere and extreme and whatever, but I just figured out that the Z because the main character's Z. Anyway, it's episode
like just now you figured that out?
Just right in this moment.
Wow.
It's episode 184. If you're playing at home, it's season 3, episode 35. As I said, I'm Jason. This is Steven. We're joined this week by a special first-time guest from the lovely land of Haligonia, a friend of the United Federation of Podcasts. He works in the film industry, wears many hats. You should have had a hat on because you're making me look stupid. Please welcome to the show. Please welcome to the show for the first time, Pat King. Pat King, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jason, Stephen. I've been waiting to get on this show since I started doing trivial debates. I've just been like, wait, you guys have a movie show and I'm not on it yet? Like, what are we doing here?
What's going on here?
Let's go. And the viewers may be tickled to know that Jason and I go way, way, way back to like when
20 years, man.
Yeah, 20 years, which is wild to me that I've been in Halifax for that long. Back when I was just starting out in film school, and we had some common friends, and it's been a long time coming. I'm happy to be here, and hope it's the first of many. So thanks for having me.
I mean, I can already say that we're going to welcome you back to the old couch because the pre-show that we did just now was like a podcast of its own, or a little catch-up where we had some opinions and we talked at length about a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we have known each other technically for 20 years, but it's been a thing where like I've just kind of looked at your name on my Facebook list for the last
Yeah.
like 17 years.
I've watched
then,
your Instagram stories and just kind of felt that we've been involved. That weird parasocial relationship of the social media platforms and shit, which I'm currently trying to kind of divorce myself from, largely of just like flipping through all that shit and getting back to writing, getting back to focusing on like tangible projects. So even more excited to be here because I'm like, yeah, this is something that I can like point at and go, hey, I did a thing, and not just fucking endlessly scrolling. Like, hey, I posted 16 stories that got a lot of likes and then disappeared 24 hours later. It's just like pissing into the ocean. Like, what am I doing?
It is. And the conversion rate from that, people only want to look at those things because nowadays it's just scroll. So I put up my reviews, like I review movies on Instagram, and they don't get any likes or anything, and then I look through my likes in the stories, and that's all people are looking at on Instagram. So it's a weird time. It feels like a social media is sundowning a little bit for the faster social medias.
I think it's good to have a journal. So that's just a journal. Just think of it as a journal, Jason. Not that people aren't looking at it. It's just your way of getting out your thoughts. It's a good thing.
I've actually gone back to writing in a legitimate journal, like a leather-bound, handmade journal that I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm moving back into the hills.
Edgar Allan King over here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna a little plot of land and
start living in a cabin with no power and down to Halifax to be on a podcast.
Yeah. Well, hopefully one day we can have you on in person.
I'd love that. I actually just had a friend move out to Toronto, so I may be there to visit her in the next little bit. And obviously, I would put that call out and say, like, hey, everybody, like, let's do some things while I'm here. So yeah, you're pretty pumped about that.
Amazing. Well, like I said, it's in the little opening thing. It is still Steve's birthday month. We're talking about 90s comfort films or 90s nostalgia. This is the second year you've done this, Steve, and it's been great both times. I'm going to spoiler alert. I hate this movie, but we'll get into why.
You hate this movie?
It makes me feel weird.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm interested to know why. Okay.
I'll explain why as we go. But,
are you like a Pixar glazer? You're sucking
no, it's
Disney.
It's the color palette and the anyway. It just I don't know. We'll talk about it.
I've got at least 3 pages of notes. So trust me when I say that I put some thought into I think I watched it 3 times in the last 2 days.
Oh my
God. Perfect.
I had to rewatch the ending.
I watched it the first time and I was like, I don't know if I like that. And then the second time I was like, still don't know if I like that.
And the third time, love it. Genius.
I was pretty ambivalent to a lot of it. I had to put it in the time and place, and I thought the philosophy was a little bit muddy. And then I'm like, of course the philosophy was muddy. It's for children.
Yeah.
Fuck,
but is it though? That's the other thing. It's like, is it for children?
Well, they do swear a surprising amount,
and it's really horny. Like it's got a sort of Bluth horny level going on that I'm like, I don't know why I like this so much as a child.
Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. First, we need to. I think we have Zardos is floating by, and I think he needs something from
Zardos.
Zardos,
you there?
It's time.
That's Freddy.
Freddy.
Zardos speaks to you. He demands you synopsize this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
So spooky. He just threw a bunch of guns into my room here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Give them back. Put them in my mouth.
Now, normally, I don't want to put the guest on the spot, but Pat, do you feel comfortable giving just like a brief, maybe like 1 paragraph synopsis of what this movie is? You kind of already started. If not,
so I mean, we talked about the main character being Z, so Z is kind of a down on his luck, demystified worker ant who's unhappy with his place in the colony. He, in a very horny turn of events, goes to a bar where a princess is slumming it for some worker D, and he manages to somehow catch her eye, and then decides that he's unhappy with his station in life because he wants to get with the queen, and then winds up going on this adventure to save the colony from a fascistic general who wants to murder half the colony to make the colony better. It gets really intense with the eugenics and fascism at times.
And Thanos.
Yeah, so it's just about an unhappy worker ant who wants more out of life and who thinks he can get with the queen, and because he's Woody Allen in Hollywood, somehow that happens.
Yeah, no, that's pretty spot on, and
at an hour and 20 minutes, you're not exactly working with Casablanca.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, is there anything you want to add to that, Steve?
No, that's what happens. That's a good synopsis. Sometimes they're not good. That was good.
Take notes, other guests. Cool. Well, let's go into our brief histories.
You talking about the brief history?
Brief histories.
A brief history.
So this is essentially just your history with the movie. Steve, why don't you go first since Pat's new, just to kind of show what the dilly is. Also, it's your month, so let's hear it.
So I love animation. I think I'm the only one who ever suggests animated movies on this fucking podcast that we do. But I have always loved animation. I loved it so much that I thought that I was going to be an animator in my adult life. Turns out I don't like repetition that much, so I couldn't do it. But I saw this movie in theater because I was a pretty big animation nerd. Like I had all these animation books when I was a kid, so just anything new in the realm of 3D animation was exciting to me. It could have been anything, and I would have been like, let's go see that. it's like cartoons, but not cartoons. I don't know how to formulate this yet. I'm 9. But I dragged my parents to see this movie, and I was already starting to get sort of disillusioned with the idea of Disney and how childish and full of whimsy it was. So something this dark really was compelling to me as a kid because it was so different than everything else that I had seen up into this. And even when I did see A Bug's Life a couple of months later, when that came out, I still felt like this hit harder for me as a 9-year-old boy, where I was like, that was sick. Those termites were sick. That flying ant is sick. Everything about this movie is sick. So I was very pleased to have this movie under the Christmas tree the following Christmas. And I did like the what's his name? Douglas, when he's like, ants, dancing around my hands. I had ants in my pants. And I watched the absolute hell out of this as a kid on VHS, just over and over and over again. And watching it and one day stopped and hadn't watched it again until this week for, many, many years. And it's baffling to me now that I'm like, why did I love this so much? Like, I cannot find the answer. And I'm hoping that we can find the answer during this discussion as to why it spoke to a 9-year-old version of me so heavily. But yeah, the first time I saw it was in theater, and I loved it. As soon as the ants go marching one by one started chanting, like in a military fascist sort of, like, every time you see a fascist dictatorship, that's what the army looks like. And I was just pumped. And from that moment on, I was just kind of like in love with the movie. Yeah, that's it.
Ants there. Sorry, I was sitting on that for.
Wow, what a great pun.
Yeah,
I was surprised you didn't say Thantnos when you were talking about Thanos earlier.
I love it. I love that. How about you, Pat?
I was aware of this movie, and like Steven, I was a big fan of animation as a kid. I've always been a huge consumer of film and media. Mm-hmm. And when this movie came out, I was 10 years old. And, I remember in the first, I think, 15 minutes, Gene Hackman says bitch and damn, and like I think Sly Stallone like drops some swears, and I'm like, oh, like okay, like,
oh jeez,
I can feel mature when I'm watching this movie. Like it's not treating me like a kid, which was kind of nice because like all those Disney movies that like Katzenberg, who went on to found DreamWorks, had just left Disney after just releasing certified banger after banger after banger and then getting fired. So I think that was kind of his like, you know what, fuck you. Or I'm gonna do things the mouse would never do.
Yeah.
And become their biggest rival at the time. But I don't look back on this movie with like a ton of nostalgia. I felt like I didn't love it. I was aware of it. I'd seen it a couple of times and enjoyed it, but I didn't see it in theaters or anything like that. I think I might have actually enjoyed it more rewatching it in the last couple of days than I did back when I was a kid. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. For me, it was, I remember watching it like when it came out. I would have been like 12, I think, in 1998 or something. Yeah. 12 or 13. I remember at the time not liking this goes to what I was saying. Like, I don't enjoy this movie because the character designs, this color palette, it all sort of just I can't explain it really, but it makes me feel weird. I remember the action figures being out. Their faces do something in my brain that just doesn't rub me the right way. And that's just personal preference. I enjoyed watching it this time around, but I did have some issues with it. It kind of, for how short a movie it is, it feels like I was kind of bored by it. But the thing is I love the message. I love the message of breaking out of your mold, breaking out of the totalitarian society. I think the message of this movie works really well today. And yeah, I think I watched it once in 1998 and just sort of knew that it existed. And I do think that its sister movie, A Bug's Life, is more of the like watered down more for kids. Like, this is like a family movie where the parents can watch it and get something out of it, and the kids are like, oh, animated bugs, it's fun, ants go marching in hurrah hurrah, like that's all great. I would like to shout out the Game Boy game that they made out of this, which is a pretty standard side scroller, and I remember playing it in a like on an emulator and being like, what is happening? Like, this looks like shit. But I could imagine getting the game and being like stoked about it because they were all the rage, and I'm talking Game Boy Color, like that it was out for. So my brief history is extremely brief. I watched it in 1998, and then I watched it in 2025, the year of our Lord 2025. So pretty easy. But I just want to reiterate that, like, while I do enjoy the message of the movie, it has and the cast is out of control. There's something about the color palette and the design of the ants that just makes me depressed or something. And maybe that's part of it,
That is by design.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to feel comfortable in the world that they live in because it's an uncomfortable
There was
world.
a chunk right. Yeah, they do spend a little bit of time above ground in Insectopia, quote unquote, where things are colorful. You get to see the sky, green grass, things are brighter. But yeah, it's a very brief moment in like the second act, and then you never return there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the contrast is supposed to be wowing, right? Like you're almost supposed to feel like you walked into a Disney movie in that moment, where the rest of it is muddy and depressing and gross. And I love the design of the ants, especially the workers, because for a movie that's touting them all being the same and part of this unbroken unit, and they basically have no identity. All of the characters had really well designed features for individuality. If you look at something like A Bug's Life, all the characters look the same to the point that I wouldn't be able to tell you which one is which. Whereas this, they get cartoony with it, and they have very specific features for each character, making you able to differentiate them quite easily.
Yeah.
And I also love that the workers all look super tired. Like they have these like crazy bags under their eyes.
And they're more pale. Like they're
Yeah.
actually like a few shades more pale than the soldiers.
So like I can appreciate your critique of it, Jason, but I think that like it's literally doing its job if that's how you're feeling. And I know that's not enjoyable for you, but it's like that's what the movie wants you to feel like. You want to feel grossed out by everything.
I fell for the propaganda.
Yeah. Jason loves fascism.
Hey, I hate fascism. Down with Trump.
There was a lot of that, like, as someone who, I'm a huge, like, I read a ton about social justice and fascism and socialism and communism and politics and shit. And I comparing this to A Bug's Life, I was like, this is actually a little more daring and a little more fully fleshed out when it comes to being really overt about their stances on a lot of the politics. And I'm like, okay, that it also has a bit more of a message, and it subverts that message a little bit, and especially during, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, but the termite battle, I got Paul Verhoeven vibes of this kind of like subtle social satire.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, shit, maybe this movie is smarter than I gave it credit for. Like on the third watch, I was like, shit, okay, maybe they were onto something.
Yeah, like I said, that's the moment of the movie where I was sold, because up until that point, I was like, this doesn't feel like a kid's movie to me as a kid. I'm like, this feels like I'm watching a boring adult movie about people hating their lives. I don't want to watch it. And then termites attack, and I'm like, all right, this is sick. When they're like spitting acid all over each other.
It was like the Happy Meal version of Starship Troopers.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we get into the production talk?
Production talk, yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound, speed, action.
Yeah, it's the movie made 171.8 million off a 49 to 105 mil budget.
That's a wide margin.
Yeah, that's a huge discrepancy.
Like, where'd that money go?
I don't know why, but it's an animated film, so it could be, they can't really calculate. It's from
There's
almost
$60 million missing. I think what probably happened is, from what I understand, this movie started production in like the early 90s and it got shelved, so there was probably a ton of money that was spent on it that they couldn't account for or be absolutely certain as to how much they spent already in this sort of number that we're getting.
Wait, and apparently it was based on a script that Katzenberg had pitched to Disney before he left.
Yes,
and they passed on it and didn't hold any of the rights or anything, so it could have been in development a really long fucking time.
Yeah,
but
from what I understand, it was like at least 8 years, if not more than that he had been holding on to it, right?
Well, and as far as budget goes, there was a story, reading about it over and over again, there was a story that I bumped into often, which was Sly Stallone got his role in the movie because he didn't want money.
What did he want? He's like, I want women. Hold on, date with those hot worker ladies.
They were like, oh, we're going to hire Schwarzenegger. And Schwarzenegger's like, well, yeah, pay me. And they were like, well, no.
What do you mean you want money?
Yeah. Money? Like,
Sly said he'd do it for free.
Yes, yeah. Sly will do it for a sandwich.
Yeah, Sly probably wanted to show it to like his kids or something, one of those stories where they're like, I just wanted to be in an animated feature to show to my kids. But like, listen to this cast. This cast is insane. The cast of this movie is the cast of a great like Woody Allen movie, I would say. Woody Allen, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Sly Stallone, Dan Aykroyd, and Bancroft, Jane Curtin, Danny Glover, Jennifer Lopez, John Mahoney from Frasier. Yeah, Christopher Walken, Jim Cummings, the voice of
Winnie the Pooh.
Everything, yeah.
Everything.
Literally everything, yeah. Jim Cummings is such like because you think of him and you're like, he's got to be like under some sort of Disney contract, right? Because he's in so many Disney movies, but like, no, he's also in the DreamWorks stuff. He's everywhere. He's in Skyrim.
He's like a additional voices in like dozens of video games. Yeah, he's just additional voices are fucking dozens of his credits. And you're like, oh yeah, you're one of the biggest voice actors in the world, but you're not above doing additional voices for whatever.
Yeah. I can come in for
and
pound it.
Looking at this cast, like, you know, we think about the cast now and go, oh, that's stacked. But back in 1998, like, really think about it. Danny Glover's in this movie. They were still making Lethal Weapon movies back then. You know, Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin had just done the Coneheads. You know, these people aren't just massive stars. They're massive stars who are currently working on huge projects at the time.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
so
not retrospectively huge. They were huge at the time of making.
They were,
like, they are legends now, but at the time they were actively some of the most recognizable names in media.
Grant Shaud, who is the foreman in this movie, was literally on Murphy Brown, one of the biggest sitcoms of all time at this moment. So they were really pulling from a pool of people who were just working, coming up, or just leveled out. He plays Miles on Murphy Brown. I don't know if you ever watched that as a kid. I watched like Frasier and Cheers and Murphy Brown when I was like 10.
Yeah, same.
Like, I understand all these jokes.
Brown.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going on.
I think I love being made when I was a kid, but like Murphy Brown was already dead and buried by the time I was old enough to start watching that kind of TV.
Yeah, Jason and I are just old fucks.
Couple years older makes all the difference.
Yeah.
At that time, yes. There's entire like realms of cartoon shows and video games that like I've never heard of and you've never heard of based on like a couple of years difference.
Yeah, like 3 to 5 years is, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I don't have Transformers and He-Man really, because of just them not being on TV in Halifax specifically, but also just a couple years. But Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and all those weird, like, you know, MC Hammer and his magic shoes and all that weird shit from Saturday morning cartoons. Like, I have all of that in my head.
Well, that was like me going on about Pirates of Darkwater on one of the
Pirates of Darkwater.
Shows.
Yeah,
everyone. I was like, none of you guys remember Pirates of Darkwater, and
I think I was on that episode, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
But I like there was that, like, there were so many animated shows getting made at that time.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever sat down and tried to name all of the shows between 1985 and 1995 that just involved teams of anthropomorphic animals?
There's
fucking
Sharks,
dozens.
Turtles.
Biker Mice from Mars,
Samurai
SWAT Cats, Samurai Pizza Cat. Like, we could go on and on.
Was that Space Rabbit, the green Space Rabbit?
Remember Bucky O'Hare.
Bucky O'Hare, yeah. What an era. They should really just like make an extended universe and have them all be in a universe together.
I can't abide furries.
Listen,
they're trying that right now.
Video game character ever made.
No,
don't ask me.
Don't feed the furries. Just please don't.
Right. I'm with you on that one. This movie was directed by a team of Eric Darnell, Jim Johnson, and Lawrence Gutterman. I don't know much about these guys, but they've got a pretty good pedigree. It's a lot of animated film. I do notice that Jim Johnston is a DreamWorks guy and has worked on stuff like How to Train Your Dragon as a producer and Over the Hedge as a director, which are, you know, he directed the Kung Fu Panda holiday special. I don't know. I'm just reading what I'm seeing here. Do you guys?
It's a good holiday special.
Oh, the director of Son of the Mask, Lawrence Gutterman himself, was one of the directors on this film as well. So I don't know much about these guys. If you guys could lend any additional information.
No, they're just kind of like journeyman directors for DreamWorks mostly.
Okay.
I love that they were kind of, you know, a merry band of mercenaries who would kind of, people were just forming in the shadow of Disney at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Katzenberg had done a tremendous amount of work in putting a shot in the arm of Disney's animation studio. Like, it was kind of falling off. Like, you had the original heyday of like Snow White and Fantasia, and they really revolutionized stuff. But for 20 years, they had kind of fallen off. and Katzenberg came back, and he just made certified banger after banger, Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, and just threw haymakers for almost 10 years. And then they summarily fired him. And he was like, fuck you then. I'm going to go make my own studio with a bunch of other people that have essentially been cut loose by bigger animation industries.
Wasn't he also like in line to become the new like CEO of Disney? And they're like,
yeah, absolutely. And then he was like, fuck you then. I'm going to go talk to Spielberg. And Spielberg was like, let's make our own studio with blackjack and hookers. And then proceeded to, you know, create this titan that really went on to go, you know, shot for shot with Disney, and revolutionized 3D animation alongside Pixar, where Disney hadn't really been doing that kind of thing at the time. So
yeah, DreamWorks is sort of like the Don Bluth of the 3D animated world. You know, like the Bluth films were always kind of toe and toe with Disney for a time, but they were always kind of dubbed as like the weird, hornier step sibling. You know, it's like everything is just a little bit.
I kind of like that these smaller studios were more like the renegades. They were the more, you know, rough around the edges kind of mercenaries who were doing the edgier stuff. And, you know, they went on to do, I think it was like 2 years later, they did Shrek, which again, like all those.
Oh, that small picture. That small film.
Fucking you know, they're on number 5 now, still going. But it was one of those first films that was hilarious for both parents and children, because it was just chock full of innuendo and inappropriate jokes and visual gags that really towed the line between what you could get away with between PG and PG-13.
Yeah. There are moments in this movie where I'm like, how is this not PG-13? Like, this seems like it really should be.
Because in 1989, you could smoke around your kids and say bitch, and no one batted an eye.
It's true. It's true. Elliot calls his brother penis breath in E.T. Remember that? Remember those days?
I do. I mean, in 1998, there were still mall food courts you could smoke cigarettes in. So
Yep. Yeah. I remember going to Tim Hortons, and I was just like, I'm basically nicotine high at this point.
And that's like, I think 1998 is right before they put in the special room. Like, I think you could still just hack a dart. I remember being in Bears Road Shopping Center and sitting in like the food court where it used to be, and somebody was smoking a cigarette like into my mouth and coughing to be like, can you please stop blowing cigarette smoke into my nose, please? And they did not care. And then my mom lit up a cigarette.
And my mom was like, yeah, stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll blow the smoke into my kid's face. Thank you very much. But yeah, what a grand thing. I was thinking about, like, what if this movie was the traditional animated film? Would it work the same? Maybe not. This might be a great example of early animated film looking really great in its medium because of the subject matter, and also the like where they are doing underground dirt, brown on brown, like easy to animate probably.
I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of the early 3D films were also based on insects that generally had less than 10 actual body parts to animate.
Yeah.
I watched a couple of animation tests for it today just to kind of see what like the early stages was, and it's so basic, it's crazy. Where you're like, now you watch like something like where they, you know, the third Monsters Inc. movie, and it's just like the most insane looking layering, like a 1 million layers of different textures and stuff. Whereas this, it's like 4 layers. Can you believe it? We're up to 4. Like, oh, geez.
I was watching a lot of Reboot recently, and Reboot was like 98 around that time too, and that was the first fully animated 3D TV show. And there were moments where I was like, actually, you know, put the two of them side by side and consider that a 20-minute episode of Reboot was done in a week, and Antz was produced for nearly a decade. It's like, honestly, not that huge of a leap, you know?
Well, this film does remind me a lot of the YTV interstitials that would play at night that were like CG, which were basically just tech demos or like students. And I think it was a lot of the people from the team of Reboot that were making these tech demos for those interstitials. And this really had a lot of that vibe to it. The scene where the magnifying glass comes in really looked like real basic.
Beautiful.
But it looks cool as hell because of they were able to do the glass effect, the fire effect, and the water effect later. Those were early
and
techniques.
When it nukes him and like dusts him was probably not an easy effect to do back then either, because you're looking at a ton of particle effects.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I don't think it could work in a traditional animation sense is that sense of scale that you get for certain things, like the weightiness of the feet walking and the magnifying glass, all that stuff. They could accomplish it in a 2D medium, but I just don't think it would have the same kind of weight to it. You know, it wouldn't have that sense of scale that I think this movie accomplishes in a weird way, where you're like, we are the size of that thing, and I can understand just how small they are. And I feel like they do a pretty good job of scale overall in this. Like everything seems like they did their research to be like, how big can an ant get trapped inside of a droplet of water? Yes. How big is an ant in relation to a ladybug? Let's make sure that we keep it on scale. How many legs do an ant have? 6 A Bug's Life. You really screwed up a lot of kids.
Come on. Day one stuff. But I did have that as a note when I was making my notes, that the surface tension gags were actually really cool, because that's something I don't think a lot of people were thinking of at the time. And I don't think there were a lot of stories about bugs, but I was like, yeah, all the tricks that they play with them, like getting stuck in the droplet of water and then landing, or drinking out of a droplet of water that they have in their hand, because the surface tension doesn't allow it to fall through their fingers. I was like, that's kind of cool and not something you see often. So they did some cool stuff.
For sure. I don't really have a ton more to add for production talk. If you guys do, feel free. But,
the only thing I was going to mention is the score in this movie is good. And
the main theme is good. It's triumphant, epic, and it kind of matches. It's a nice through point throughout the entire movie, and then like the marching stuff at the beginning is quite good as well. Sort of like the introductory theme, where it's very upbeat but droning and monotonous. Kind of reminds me of the opening to They Live, how they have the theme that really sort of encapsulates the energy of the main character in a way, because he's like this neurotic weirdo, right? Where he's not happy with his place in the colony, and he can't step into line. But he's so anxious, and like that's what that song kind of gets you going right in the beginning, is like high anxiety. You are Woody Allen.
What's interesting about these composers is Harry Gregson Williams worked on as recently as Gladiator 2, and he composed for Shrek. And John Powell, he has a composer credit for Wicked. Obviously, he didn't like write the Wicked songs, but there is a score in that movie outside of the songs. So these guys are still working, and they're still working on huge films. So it's good pedigree.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I have to add production-wise is that there were apparently a few roles that were cut that I would have been really excited to see in the film. Apparently, Cheech and Chong did some voices for some of the bugs that kind of sit around the campfire later in the film.
Bugs.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, okay, that would have been amazing and would have been fun to look back on as an adult, having experienced it as a kid and not known who Cheech and Chong was.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were, and they're not the only big names that wound up on the cutting room floor, which is insane because of the already stacked cast. So
Christopher Walken actually almost ended up not on the cutting room floor, but in a much smaller role. They liked his character so much that they actually increased his role in the film. He had a lot more lines because of Christopher Walken just doing his thing. So
it's weird though, because like he isn't really Walken-y except for like that one moment where he lands at the campfire. He's going full Walken there, but the rest you almost kind of like he's just sort of doing a regular normal performance. Like he's not doing his weird voice. He's just kind of like, it's his voice, but in a very normal role. But as soon as he lands, he turns it on. He's like, hello, I'm just here stopping by.
Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted. Anyway, you fucking backhands the other.
Looking for the princess. Yeah, after like punching somebody in the throat. Yeah. All right. Do we want to move on to the body of the episode?
We can get into the body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
This movie, we're here. Unfortunately, Woody Allen is the main character of this movie, but
let's just
move past that.
We don't need to talk about the sex criminal or alleged sex criminal Woody Allen.
Oh, I don't think there's an alleged that you need to append to that. I think it's fully
just covering my bases. What if we become famous one day and Woody Allen tries to fucking sue us with all his weird sex criminal money?
I'll call him a fucking pervert to his face. He's 90. What's he gonna do? I think one of the most believable things about this movie was there was a 22-year age gap between him and his fucking love interest.
I was gonna say it seemed a little bit.
Only in Hollywood
suspect.
Can Woody Allen even begin to think he could get Sharon Stone, who could kill me with her thighs and I would die happy.
Yeah, your head would explode like a coconut.
I mean, ever since Total Recall and Quick as the Dead, Sharon Stone is top tier.
And good performance. She's got a good voice for her animation. It's not someone that you think of immediately, but as soon as she started talking, a lot of the times when I watch these types of movies and I forget who plays who, I do like to play the guessing game of like, where is he? Where is she? When am I going to see them? When am I going to hear them? Oh, but as soon as she opens her mouth, I'm like, oh, there's Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
Immediately. Yeah. I didn't realize how recognizable her voice was until she started talking.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Normally for a movie like this, I would drop the that's when they said the name of the movie in the movie. But I started watching. I just quickly was watching the beginning on 2x speed to see if they just say Antz in the beginning. I don't know if they say the word Antz in this movie, and if they do they?
I don't think they do actually.
They do, but they don't say it with a Z.
Yeah, they say larva, they say worker, they say maggot, they say soldier. I don't think and they say colony.
Yeah.
I don't. They're always referred to as collectives and not,
So
as
it would be a really interesting thing. I wish I had looked this up or figured it out. If they never say that they're ants in the whole film, so I'm not going to do a title drop this week, just for that. Just assuming that
and even when they meet the wasps, played by Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, they don't even refer to them as ants. They go land walking insects.
Yeah.
They must have just crawled out of the forest, out of the dirt.
They always kind of skirt around it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing in this. That's interesting if it is. I liked the little opening bit with the magnifying glass showing all the names. And then
they say, you to ant. He says you to ant at the end.
Oh,
ant, but not plural.
You to ants, Z.
You God, so close.
But I mean, the movie is called Ant Z, so yeah, it's not called Ants. It's called Ant Z.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
That's the
Huron. Hey, did you see this one? That's what I call it close enough. I think that's good enough. I don't have the timestamp for it this week, but
it's better than good, Jason. It's good enough.
Good enough.
It's good enough.
It's at the end of the movie somewhere. Anyway,
so it's the story of a claustrophobic and neurotic ant. He opens in therapy. He's not cut out to be a worker.
Is he claustrophobic? Does he say that?
Yeah, he says he doesn't like being
tight spaces. Make me uncomfortable.
Make me nervous.
I get nervous nosebleeds when I'm in.
I did love the line that kind of like finishes the opening scene where it's just like, you really made a breakthrough today, Z. And he's like, I did? And he's like, yeah, you are insignificant.
You are indeed.
Which kind of starts the philosophical argument between you've got like the fascists, they even make some reference to like Ayn Rand and her individualistic bullshit. There's an ant statue that is like carrying a huge clod of dirt on its shoulders, similar to Atlas Shrugged. And he is insufferably selfish the entire film, and people make fun of him for it constantly. So it's this kind of like fascism, Ayn Randian libertarianism, and the only people in the movie who aren't fucking insufferable are the workers and the bugs who live in the communes kind of outside the colony. But at the beginning of the movie, him basically just complaining about how his life isn't good enough. I'm just like, I fucking hate this guy already.
Yeah.
Like Woody Allen just being Woody Allen. I'm like, man, how did I like all of his movies?
Yeah.
Like this could easily just be like a Woody Allen New York movie. They just change some things around to make it like a barista who wants to break free, and all of his coworkers are just like, we gotta do the barista.
I mean, let's be
thing.
real. It is a Woody Allen New York movie.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
It feels that they're in New York at the end.
Apparently, the anthill is in Central Park.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Which I don't think is ever mentioned. It's just kind of a production.
No, you see it at the end. The camera zooms out from the anthill and it reveals New York City skyline. So the only park that I know of in New York.
Oh, right, yeah, because the Twin Towers, they actually have the Twin Towers in the skyline, right?
Yeah.
So technically, yes, it is a Woody Allen New York movie.
Mm-hmm. That's why they all have New York.
Stuck at Metropolis.
I wrote that we can all relate to that because we all sort of want to get out of the rat race. Then we see the like the bugs being assigned at birth or at larva state, whether they're going to be,
Worker,
a worker or a soldier, etc. It seems to be pretty random.
Yeah, the irony is they're all identical.
Yeah. And we get that montage of all the different parts of the colony. They're building the super tunnel. They're training the soldiers and all that stuff. And yeah, Zed does realize he's insignificant. And we meet Azteca, his buddy, played by Jennifer Lopez. And she reassures him it's for the greater good.
It is.
Well, that's what they keep reassuring us as we go to our various jobs, whether it be a 9-to-5 or even a creative job. It's like, we were talking about it on the pre-show. Like you get into the various industries that are creative, and they're like, you work for free.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what you got to do. You got to earn your keep. You got to, the opposite of trickle down economics, trickle up.
Well, yeah, there's a hierarchy, you've got to prove your worth, and somehow it's a meritocracy. But I think this movie, especially, it has that, like, there's that slippery slope of, think for yourself. They repeat it a couple of times, and, down the road, it's actually one of the characters' last words is think for yourself. And the idea that if you choose to work for the colony and you choose to be part of something bigger than yourself, that you're not thinking for yourself, it kind of takes away personal agency to be like, think for yourself. And if you pick, the group, or you pick the cause, you're not thinking for yourself. You're a sheep. You're an idiot. And I'm like, that's kind of a dangerous idea to espouse. And this movie flirts with that notion a couple of times and then subverts it a couple of times. So yeah, that's why I had to watch it like 3 times, where I was just like, what is this fucking movie trying to say? It kind of goes back and forth, and it's kind of making fun of both sides.
Yeah. And now we've got people walking around today being like, do your own research. And then they just believe any fucking Facebook post they see. Oh, I did my research. I went on Facebook.
Such a think for yourself.
Yeah.
I went on flag.eagle and found all the real information about how the earth is flat and there's a firmament, and NASA's not real, and Donald Trump is
the moon
God.
doesn't exist.
Well, yeah. Hence the think for yourself is being kind of a dangerous idea, and that kind of goes back to the Ayn Randian hyper individualistic kind of bullshit of like, oh, if I believe it, then it's true, and it's like, no, that's just as bad as fascism. Yeah. So this this movie kind of finds a comfortable middle ground, especially with like Christopher Walken's character near the end, which I think we'll get to, which I think was actually one of my favorite moments in the movie. And I think like weirdly, the most character development that went on to a character that wasn't even supposed to have more than like 10 lines.
Yeah.
I mean, it's needed though. You need that character to have the heel turn because to show that Z is not just having an impact on the people who are dying, but also those that aren't. And
Right.
I mean, I also do love that the general dies in the most unsanctimonious way. Like he just fucking breaks his neck.
He just eats shit.
Yeah.
And drowns.
He just falls and lands and he's dead. You're like,
Just
nice.
whap.
Yeah.
We do get the first time that we see their lack of individualism though is they set up a wrecking ball that is just all of them, and somehow Z ends up being like one of the most crucial parts of it, but he hates doing this stuff as a worker and gets nauseous, and he drops the ball literally, quite literally. Which was a great sequence.
Did I tell you that this makes me nauseous? And then the guy he's holding is like, no. It's good.
And then I love that was legitimately a joke. Oh, I dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Literally. You're
Literally.
like, oh, come on, man.
Wah.
But beyond that, like the messages that are like written above the workspaces for the ants.
Yeah, like
uncomfortable.
Like crush idling or something like that. Or
free time is for training.
Right.
Was one of them.
If you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like the equivalent to that kind of shit.
Like work will set you free. You know, the phrase above the gates of Auschwitz. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This movie is getting wild over here.
Right. So you like those parallels. When I was watching it, I was just like, okay, like they're trying to make a point. I'm not entirely sure what the point is, but damn, they're taking some swings at least, you know.
I remember like the moment in my real life where I had, you know, my first interaction with a boss where that was sort of their attitude towards me as a person, and like didn't treat me as a human being, but treated me as just like an accessory to the workspace that I was inside of. And it changed my perspective up until this very moment in life, where I'm like, I will never allow anybody in a position of authority at a job to talk to me like I'm a piece of shit or a child ever again.
Like,
and I never have. And I gotta tell you, it's worked out pretty well for me. But it was like I was working at a movie theater and it was a day shift. There was nobody in the movie theater. It was like the middle of the day on a Tuesday or something. And I was leaning on the podium because there was no one there. And I was tired because I'm a fucking teenager. And, you know, like I didn't want to be there. And then the phone rings next to me. I pick it up and it's the guy in his office. And he's like, is that podium broken? I was like, pardon me? Is that podium broken? I'm like, what are you talking about? Is the podium broken? And I'm like shaking it. I'm like, no. And he's like, well, then why are you leaning on it? And I was like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah. And that guy was probably 22 and had a complex.
No, that guy was like in his 40s and he was like a very pathetic person. Yeah. He was not a great guy.
That's a person who's desperate for any modicum of power or control they can possibly eke out of life.
He was also eventually let out of the building via police escort, so I don't know what he was doing, but he
definitely his hard drives.
Yeah.
That's what
70
happens.
Years old now, so
that's what happens when you have Ayn Randian individualistic pseudo Ubermensch who believe that, like, listen, I'm special, I'm exceptional, I don't need to do whatever. I'm a leader of men. Like, no, you're not, man. Like, you can be part of. Well, there's a line that Z says, I'm going to keep a good attitude, though I'm utterly insignificant. When he's, you know, he's mining and he's just like, yeah, you know, I'm just going to keep a good attitude, even though I'm utterly insignificant. And I was like, you know what? That might be the healthiest thought that he has this entire film of like, yeah, your work doesn't, like, you're not entirely insignificant. You know, you're working towards a greater good. But that idea of like, yeah, I can be happy even though like I'm not changing the whole world, you know, being happy in these small roles is okay. But he is just insufferable and refuses to be anything less than exceptional. And then it causes tremendous amounts of problems for everybody, himself included. And people die.
So many people die.
So many people die.
Because he was just like, I want to fuck a queen because I'm special. You're
I'm
like,
so special. The queen loves me. Sorry, Danny Glover, you get your whole body ripped off.
yeah. And he does his best work as a decapitated head.
He
That's
does.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. His
As
best
a
scene in this
stand-up.
movie.
As a send up to Forrest Gump, I believe.
Yeah.
I would just to answer this question. We are discussing movies. I think that's obvious. We're talking about Antz, but we kind of go over to the general. He talks about the workers being weak, and the general wants to attack the termite colony and wants the top names that are the most loyal, which is very like
To the queen,
that is
specifically.
fascism 101.
Yeah.
Kill all the soldiers that are loyal to the queen, so that when he creates his uprising, nobody stands in his way or whatever.
But like a fascist, he doesn't think about anything past the first layer. So you send a bunch of soldiers on a suicide mission and then plan to drown all of the workers. How the fuck do you think society is going to continue?
Yeah, like, and
being
then what?
prosperous? Like, right, yeah, like, and then so you got a bunch of fascist assholes standing around jerking each other off, and nothing's getting accomplished.
You know, that sounds real familiar.
Not to get political or anything, but
Yeah.
When all the
What-
Nazis
what
are
next?
left and they're just jerking each other off, that sounds like a great society. Slash,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
we are
at
the
all.
overmensch. You're like, no one has built a car in 9 months. Like, what?
Yeah, you did it. We have no exports.
All your trade workers are dead.
Oh no, that's fine. 2 tickets to Dreamworld. I appreciate you watching. We are talking about Antz, but we're also getting
Antz is
real into it with
complex.
politics. Yeah, that's great. The queen is, of course, skeptical of the general a little bit, and the general seems very two-faced. And Princess Bala is talking to the general, and I'm like, are they smitten? Nope. It's that old thing where they're going to be married, but they don't really know each other, and it's that story.
Yeah, it's like a royal wedding, or it's like an arranged
yeah.
marriage. You know,
I love how the princess, she has a line that's like, I don't even know why he wants me. It's like, because you're heir to the throne, you fucking idiot. Like,
because once
I don't
he
know
kills your
why he
mom, he
wants
needs
me.
another queen to make a billion babies for him to populate his
right.
new world or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like the most basic. It's what do you not realize you're a princess? Like, how stupid are you? There's a couple of lines where I was utterly baffled by the princess's inability to realize not only her station, but like the sociological and cultural events going on around her. I'm just like, are you not just a prisoner? Are you? What are you doing? Also, shout out to the original queen, played by Anne Bancroft, the OG Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah.
Who I was like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? And I had to look her up, and I was like, oh, fucking Anne Bancroft. Like, if I were 20 years older, Anne Bancroft would have been my Pamela Anderson.
It's true.
Yeah,
True.
legit.
No, that's a great poll. I mentioned her in the opening when I was listing the names, and I wasn't even 100% sure, but I was like, she looks familiar. But yeah, that's a good shout out.
Mrs. Robin, you're trying to seduce me. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was.
Christopher Walken plays an ant named Cutter. He's sort of like the lieutenant to the general, who's Gene Hackman. They kind of have a conversation about what's happening. They've declared war, and that's basically the whole conversation they have. Like, anything interesting happen? We declared war. And Bala asks the queen, like, why do I have to marry him? And the queen reassures her that she has to continue the queen's work. And the general begged for her hand. And there's a line later in the movie where Bala's like, how would you feel if you had to give birth to a baby every second for the rest of your life?
Every 10 seconds.
Every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is Handmaid's Tale shit.
It's also just the reality of a queen ant.
Yeah.
So, like, I think this is extremely gross and funny at the simultaneously. That, like, the entire conversation is happening while there's an endless stream of ants just bringing larvae for the queen ant to just like hold for 1 second before, I guess, like imprinting on it or whatever, just to be like, I need to mix my pheromones with yours for 1 second so that you'll stay loyal to this anthill for your entire existence.
Well, and if that previous conversation is any indication, the queen ant is having a baby every 10 seconds.
So during the conversation, yeah.
The ones that she's holding probably just came out of her. Like that's probably holding her child for the first time.
That's why there's a line of them going behind her with no babies, and the other line is them with babies. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
I didn't even realize she was holding her infants for the first time. That entire scene, just over.
Those are new babies. Yeah, they're just popping out.
Hilarious.
She's just giving birth while having a full-on conversation about her people waging war on termites, and she's like, "We have good relations with the termites," as she's popping out babies behind her.
Didn't catch that, and I've watched this movie 3 times in 48.
No, I have it kind of on as a reference point here. I've been starting to keep the movie on sort of in the background to keep me on track, but I just noticed that that's literally what's happening, and she doesn't even break eye contact with the general.
That's a boss move, though.
Yeah, even as I was watching this for the first time during that sequence, I was like, ew, this is gross. Those are fresh larvae. Nasty. They probably got steam coming off of them.
Part of the brilliance of this movie, because that's a pretty good gag.
There's so many good little gags in this movie that if you're just kind of not paying too much attention to what they're saying, because a lot of it is just Woody Allen complaining about shit, and you're just watching the background and what's going on, it's like, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the aphid bar is like they just drink beer out of a fucking bug's butt. Yeah.
From aphid anuses. Yeah. Which I love that they use the word anus.
Yeah. He's like, I got a thing about drinking liquid from another
creature's anus.
Yeah.
Well, that's literally the next part. The bar is called Chug Bar. They drink from aphid butts, and Weeva, played by Sly Stallone, is like his best bud, Z's best bud. And I wrote a note here that just says, Z always complaining about his lot in life, because that's most of the time he's just waxing poetic about everything is so terrible and I have to go and work and I don't think that I should work.
I love that you, at this point in the movie, made that note, because at the exact same point, I have the note miserable equals smart equals pretentious bullshit. that idea that, like, oh, I fucking hate everything and society sucks, and I'm so smart that I'm just so sad and miserable and angry. And I'm like, what a fucking cop-out attitude. Which is such a Woody Allen thing that I didn't realize that I was made so mad at until watching this movie multiple times, because when it's done in a highbrow way in a movie like Annie Hall or something, it's just like, oh, okay. It's metropolitan New York, and it's cosmopolitan and highbrow, whatever. You watch it in a kid's movie, and you're like, shut the fuck up, God.
I never really got over my kids' movie attitude for Woody Allen, because that's how I feel about every single one of his movies. I'm like, would you just shut the fuck up?
Yeah, like what are you adding to this conversation? Like,
I've never really. This is the only Woody Allen movie that I actually like. Like, I've had a really hard time with Woody Allen my entire life. Like, I went to film school as well, and you have to watch a lot of that stuff in order to study it and then discuss it in class. And I always felt like everybody was playing a trick on me. I'm like, is everybody just pretending to like this shit? Because I fucking hate it. But no, a lot of people like it, and a lot of people still do like it, even though the creator is a sex maniac or whatever the fuck.
I kind of picture Steve in film school, and everybody's like the worker ants being like, yes, we must watch the 10 greatest movies, and you're like, these movies suck. What is your problem?
Kane and Battleship Potemkin and the bicycle.
I can't deal with fucking Citizen Kane anymore.
And I'm just like, can we just talk about Tarantino for a couple minutes, please?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some John Carpenter movies, please.
Yeah, I like genre films. They can films can be fun and interesting and thought-provoking without being driven up its own ass over and over again. And that's just all Woody Allen.
And
Alright,
you know, those movies have their place, and they're for people. They're for specific types of people, and I just don't happen to be one of them. But I do love cinema, and I love all aspects of it. But I'm not going to be like, let's throw on Annie Hall and have a good time this afternoon. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather put on fucking Warriors of Virtue and watch a bunch of people in the panda costumes kick the shit out of each other.
I watched two dumb movies today. I also watched Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and Men in Black International, and both movies pretty dumb, pretty bad. I like Fallen Kingdom's okay. Men in Black International is the perfect intersection of like the worst progression of a film that's trying to pay homage to old stuff. But the special effects are so like wow, and I'm like basically eating popcorn and just like wow. But goddamn, if it's not a 2 out of 5, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I'd rather be entertained, or I'd rather be, provoked by complex thought.
right.
But I feel like Woody Allen movies don't satisfy either of those things. Like, I'm not entertained. A lot of the cinematography is flat. The camera doesn't move a ton. The composition can be okay and interesting. But then it's just like, okay, so some neurotic, ugly, fucking gnarled little nerd is somehow dating the most beautiful it actress of all time. Like, that's not a fucking love story that I can entertain. I have a harder time suspending my disbelief watching Woody Allen date anybody than, say, watching fucking people in panda suits kick the shit out of each other, where I'm just like, at least I'm entertained by this. I'm okay to turn my brain off. But watching Woody Allen get a girl like Scarlett Johansson, get the fuck out of here. We're done.
Yeah. In reality, all of Woody Allen's characters would be incels in today's standard. He'd be complaining about women and be super red-pilled or whatever.
And the only movies that I didn't hate that he had directed were the ones where he wrote himself as a stand-in and was played by
like Larry David,
or Owen Wilson, or
someone handsome,
literally anyone else.
Because I was going to say Larry David and George Costanza specifically; those are both the same person, really.
I think that the point that Pat's making is that somebody stands in as the Woody Allen character and is handsome, not a fucking schlubby, like ugly, classically ugly person.
Classically ugly,
right? But when he's writing himself into a part and he knows it's going to be played by a handsome guy, he writes himself differently as well.
Yeah.
So, like, in particular, I'm thinking of Match Point, which had Scarlett Johansson playing opposite, very handsome English it actor at the time who turned out to be a monster. But I remember it being like a really interesting kind of a murder.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it being like kind of an intense murder mystery type film where I'm like, oh, he didn't, Kung Fu Panda. I'd watch a movie about pandas beating each other up any other day of the week. I think I agree with you this, Stephen. Like, this is the only Woody Allen movie I even approached enjoying. Like, even flirted with enjoying.
It's because it's got termites that melt the other bugs. It's good. It's good.
Okay, so after the bar, we get the marching sequence, and I don't think a ton really happened there. So then, can we talk about this?
We find out about Insectopia around this point too, and
the dude sitting at the bar who I don't know who played him, but
it's the dad from Frasier.
Yeah, that's John
Mahoney.
Nice. Okay, okay. I love that speech.
And he basically says, like, you head towards the monolith through the canyons, which, if you think about what that would actually be, I think it's like they just see, like, what even is it? Because they show it later. The monolith is like a water fountain, and the canyons are just like a small hill.
Yeah, they're just like
it's not even a hill. It's like a bump. Yeah,
it's barely a ditch.
The conceit at the end is so good, where the camera pans out from the anthill, which is huge to them, And the distance between the water fountain and the trash can is so minuscule on a scale of a human being that like it's within spitting distance, for us. But that's like several weeks journey for a fucking ant to march, which is just it's a fun visual gag. But yeah, I do like the idea of Insectopia being this sort of like Shangri-La type thing that they think is a myth, right? It's been spoken of for generations. Everybody knows about it, but no one's ever been there, so they don't believe that it exists. And there's just an old drunken man. I should have never left Insectopia. It was the greatest. You could eat for days and you'd never run out of food.
It's just a trash can in a park.
Yeah. Well, it was just a picnic, and part of me wondered, wait, wouldn't raiding picnics generally be like one of the most common activities of an ant army? Like, how do they not know this exists? Isn't that like the main source of subsistence for an ant colony?
I mean, maybe they'll get there once the colony builds big enough. But when we're thinking about this in terms of like our perception of time, I don't know what the lifespan of an ant is. What is the
I was thinking about
of
that.
individual ant? I
gotta
assume it's like a week or something, right? Like,
I'm gonna look it up.
They don't experience
of an
days
ant
the way that we do.
It is. That's an What the? Oh, I wrote amp.
Ants live for about a year on average.
1 year. Okay. So yeah,
the workers typically only live for 4 to 12 months. So it can be 4 to 12 was kind of a wide, but yeah, less than a year generally.
So then we gotta assume that like if it's just a year, then we've got to do like a weird sort of like time conversion in our minds of like how long this ant colony has been around for. Has it been around for generations? Has it been around for like 5 years IRL? Or has it been around for longer or less? Or I don't know. But it seems like they have a day-night cycle because they sleep at nighttime.
Well, once you anthropomorphize things, you have to put those little moments in. I'm pretty sure that ants are always just like on the move because they're drones, right? So I don't know if they do. Ants sleep?
I don't know. You're the one with the ant Wikipedia page open. You tell me.
I don't think insects sleep as such. I don't think most insects sleep.
I don't know.
Because they don't have brains that are like human brains or like mammalian brains, more less like.
Do ants sleep? Yes, ants sleep, but their sleep is different from ours. Instead of long, uninterrupted periods of rest, they take many short power naps throughout the day and night, according to Active Environmental.
I might be an ant.
Yeah.
These naps are just a few minutes long, allowing them to remain alert and ready to respond to colony needs. So
I'm almost certainly an ant.
Are we ants?
I could be, yes. I haven't had a good night's sleep in 20 years, so that's
once again,
generational myth.
But it's true though, because you would tell people about the picnic area, and then you would go back, and the picnic would be gone. And you'd be like, "I swear it was just here. It was here."
Yeah.
2 days
Because
ago.
they're only there for 40 minutes to half an hour.
Insectopia is the garbage can, not the picnic, though, right? So the picnic would move, but that.
Yeah, I get they think. They say it when they get there. They're like, "Oh, it's Insectopia," and it's like, no, it's a picnic. But it was a false Shangri-La.
Yeah. They also don't get a clear shot to Insectopia because they didn't find it technically. They got stepped on, and then dude flicked them off and threw the penny in garbage
with the gum and stuff. It's
I love that moment of like the penny is coming to peel them off. And he's like, who the
fuck is
that?
Who's this guy?
That whole sequence, once we get to it, I'll just say it reminds me of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids a lot in the backyard.
Yeah.
But at this point in the film, the princess enters the chug, and they basically, they meet each other on the dance floor.
The most awkward dance sequence I've ever seen.
But the thing is like the ants are all basically doing a line dance, not breaking the status quo. They're all doing the same dance
at a tempo no one dances to. Like it's a march. It's not a dance.
Yeah. And Z and Princess Bala sort of have like that awkward dance that you were talking about, and it's very much like, is it Z exists? He's almost broken out of the matrix, like already at this point, because of this weird dance, or is he just so awkward, and she is just so ready to change her life around that it just so happens that
he breaks it down for you pretty basically as you would a child during the dance sequence. He's literally explaining what he's doing. He's like, why do we always have to dance the same? It's not fun. It's not spontaneous. It's just so robotic and silly. Like, we should be able to move how we want to move. And then he just starts dancing. So it's like he's having a moment of realization within the dance. But he already is rejecting his place in the order of things to begin with, right?
I do like
watching horrible travesty happen for him to truly
right. I do like the contrast here of the shitty song, like the shitty, like, reminds me of old commercials for this is the meal that you're eating, and now here's the commercial that you're watching meal, and the music bumps up a notch and turns into something more interesting, which very much happens here. I did enjoy that. I thought that was fun, I guess. And
you're like, I can't admit that I liked a part of this movie.
I'm
not
allowed.
I'm coming around a bit. The conversation is making me like the movie a little bit better. I might do a classic, bump it up a little bit, but not going to be good.
It's still not going to be good.
I did love the subtle, I think it was like 2 second shots of them throwing an homage to Pulp Fiction.
Right.
With the old school dance moves, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's kind of cute, but it blew my mind to realize that Pulp Fiction had only come out less than 2 years before that. I was like, oh fuck, that's a wildly back then that was a
judging on how
reference.
long this movie took to make. They had already animated that before Pulp Fiction came out. They were like, damn it, Tarantino.
You're like, oh great, it's a reference now, cool. Like, let's just say we reference Tarantino, we're cool as shit.
That's why I was like, is this Forrest Gump, or is it completely on its own separate thing? It's a little close, but that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, they started working on this in the early 90s, and it has reference to film that hadn't existed yet, or maybe these were edited in later.
I feel like the story itself could have been developed early, because it's not, you read Joseph Campbell's, the monomyth. It's like, it's note for note the monomyth. It's really beat for beat. It's not complex. It's not groundbreaking. So any of the jokes that they put in there to reference pop culture could have been done, within 6 months of them producing the movie. And then they could be like, well, we were trying to produce it and fund it, and, we were writing the script for however long. And it's like, yeah, but I think a lot of it was the nuts and bolts that were the production, not the script or the animation.
I mean, I think you and I know how long animation takes to do. So it's, it's probably took them fucking 4 years from like starting their framing and stuff to finished product. But
I also feel like there were shots that took way longer than others. That wrecking ball sequence, and the dance sequence might have taken a lot of time, but I feel like it was mostly just copy paste.
Termite War.
The Termite War was probably the longest sequence.
Which is like, it's crazy because some of the, like, I know Jason has said that he finds the movie ugly, but there's like certain moments in this movie where I'm like, that is a fucking beautiful shot. Consider it, like, this is really, you can tell that they like put a lot of time into the conceptual pieces beforehand, because the framing is like immaculate and amazing. There's like the shot where we're almost there. So like, we'll talk about it when we get there, I guess. But a bar fight breaks out, and
that's
Stallone,
the next thing I was
Stallone, that's why I'm saying it. Stallone pops in and blocks a punch with his giant chest, and then he does like the best
giant thorax. Thank you very much.
But then he does the best like Johnny Bravo punch I've ever seen. We're just like it's almost like he's flexing instead of punching. And I was like, now that is some classic cartoonery, and I like it.
He was very Johnny Bravo coded with the big
because
chin and everything.
Because Z is told to fall in line by the other people in the background dancing. So they're like, "You're not dancing like us. Figure it out, buddy."
Well, he steps on a guy's
Yeah,
foot.
dance like us or we'll beat you. It's like, oh.
But he's questions. He's like, "Why?" And then he's like, "Let's get out of here." And then another one's like, "Get back in line." And then he's like, "Why?"
No, I'm not gonna do it.
Fuck.
Wait, I think the princess is just like, make us. And I love, like, from her privilege, she's just like, yeah, what are you going to do about
You
it?
and
This
whose
guy up?
army? Yeah.
It gave me vibes of the Lord Farquaad from Shrek when he was just like, some of you might die.
We'll die.
But that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make.
Yeah. And then Z is happy for a day, like one full day he is happy, and he goes back to the bar thinking that she will return, and she does not.
Because he got 2 hours worth of attention from a female, which is
woman,
just the most incel thing ever.
But it's also relatable if you've been in a dry spell for a while. I could see that being really excited and going back to the same place, just assuming that they'll be there again and being horribly disappointed when they don't show up. And it's like,
she tells him the night before. He's like, "When will I see you again?" She's like, "Never."
Bye.
Yeah, she reveals who she is. She says that she's the princess, and then he does have a spring in his step and does go back
because he does hatch the plan. And as someone who's bartended for over a decade, God, did I ever feel for that bartender who mentions the like royal ball that's going to go on. Yeah, the royal review, and he gets the light bulb and is like, "Oh shit, like I'm going to go there and meet her." And the bartender's kind of still talking with his back turned and doing his work, and he turns around and he's just gone. And he's like, yeah, never mind, fuck me then. Like he was talking to him the whole time, and then turns around and is like, yeah, I guess I'm just some fucking asshole.
I've bartended before as well, and if I turn my back on you, you no longer exist.
Well, yeah, like the disappointment on the guy's face when he's actually having a conversation, and this dude just like runs off, has this brilliant idea, and the bartender's just like, "Well, fuck me, I guess." I was just like, "Man,"
he turns around with like the like, I'm about to start a conversation. I really need to get this off my chest.
And then he's just like,
sometimes the therapist needs a therapist, guys.
Yeah. No, that made me feel seen. Yeah, I really liked it.
And then he gets the idea to switch with Stallone.
He wakes up Weeva that night, and he pitches switching places to go see Bala.
And little does he know that he's now conscripted into the army to go fight termites. This is the shot that I was talking about before, where over the shoulder of Mandible and Bala, the troops marching, and it's done in this way where everything is so tiny and they're so high up that you can't see anything except for just this tiny waving hand, like, and you can hear his voice, Bala, Bala, and it's like so well composed.
I love that all of the other soldiers behind him are this like immovable wave, and he's just like fighting against them
because they're shoulder to shoulder,
and they're all just like, fucking shut up.
Yeah, and this moment also has some really good bits with Danny Glover, because Danny Glover just finds him absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, he's just like, I'll protect you, kid. I loved his character. I thought he did a great job for such a brief role. Like, I really didn't think it would be so quick, because he's really only in that scene and then the battle scene, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Almost every single one of his lines is boyishly laughing at what Z says and thinks he's joking, but Z is being 100% earnest about everything that he's saying the whole time.
And he's just got this grizzled, like, boy howdy, like, but he's this jaded soldier who's just like, like, I know where this is going. Like, you're gonna get disappointed, but I'm gonna be here to protect you, and I'm just.
You can also see the horrors of war in his face. Like, he's got these like sunken cheeks and like the hollowed eyes, and just like
I never knew an ant could look wrinkled, but he looked wrinkled.
He looks wrinkled,
but I love that character. Just kind of, I feel like he was a great encapsulation of the idea that you can serve a cause greater than yourself, still be happy, and still do some good.
Yeah,
like I think. That was a kind of a linchpin character approaching the second act that was really necessary, of like, oh yeah, no, there can be inspiring people who work towards the common good, but who kind of are happy with their place as a cog in the machine and are contributing. So yeah, I think like banner performance from Danny Glover here, and a character that I really liked.
Yeah, me as well.
Again, just kind of like moving back to what I had said earlier about all of the characters' faces having a lot of character in them. This is another example where it's like, if you put this face up next to all the others, you know which character it was and when he existed. I know there's a lot of repeat faces in the background characters because that's how animation works. You know, you're going to use the same models just to like fill in gaps. But every character that has a line of dialogue has a unique looking face, and it does a good job of like Stallone's character looks a lot like Stallone. It's weird, and I'm not sure if it's like, did they model it that way on purpose, or
and so does Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover's face looks. I think it's the eyebrows mostly, because like he does sort of have those high raised eyebrows, and
I thought
he acts a lot. He kind of raises his eyebrows a lot.
Like, it's what they would call Frank Caliendo from SNL. He is a great impressionist, and he has what's called the V.
Mad TV.
What's that?
Mad TV.
Mad TV. Yes. Okay. But
Sorry.
he does like what's called the V. He's like every impression starts from like here and then goes down here and ends at the chin. It's the chin, the mouth, the eyebrows, and the eyes, and that's like the whole face. That's what it's captured in.
The reason why I know that is Frank Caliendo on TikTok would go through several different impressions.
Like
by showing you how to change those. I honestly thought that they modeled Barbados is the name of Danny Glover's character.
It's Barbados.
Or Barbados.
Barbados. But I also love that they named them all after species of ant. Barbados, Weaver, Cutter. Yeah, I was like,
Which then inadvertently made them all sound like Star Wars names to me. These sound like Star Wars characters.
But I thought they specifically modeled his face after Bubba Gump because of that whole sequence was basically that. That's all I could see.
I can't feel my legs.
Yeah, I don't think
you ain't
looked,
got no legs.
Yeah,
Tell me if I'm gonna be okay.
I don't know.
Let me find your body. It's around here somewhere.
Right. I don't think that it looks like Bubba Gump, but I mean, that's just me. I think he looks more like Danny Glover. I think. Again, I think it's just the eyebrows though. Like it's that weird sort of like raised eyebrow thing. Because he looks like an old man, and Bubba Gump was not old; he was a young man.
That is true.
True. There was a bit during this where the general is giving a over-the-top speech about launching a preemptive strike on the termites. I heard you guys talking about how Z is just, like, I'm gonna go meet the princess, and of course Barbados is like, ugh. And the ants go marching in.
Barbados is the best because he's just laughing at everything that Z says because he thinks he's joking though. He thinks he's a soldier. He thinks he's a rookie, and it's so charming and endearing where you're just like, this guy is just he knows he's gonna die, but he's keeping his chin up, and you can tell that he's been through a couple fights. He's got scars like all over his entire body. But yeah, this is the part that got me as a kid. Go ahead.
The ants go marching in bit. Yeah, like I liked it now, if I'm being honest. And when they head out of the hill, it's so funny that clearly they've probably had little skirmishes with the termite like wood piece because it's so close. They walk out into the field and it's right there. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how like their world is so small in this vastness that they perceive it to be like this giant war that's been going on for probably multiple generations, but the termites are right there. And this attack that they're launching is kind of stupid and goes back to the fascism thing where the general just wants to inflict his will on the colony. He just wants to, we're doing this and we're going to cull our own herd and we're going to only be soldiers. These worker ants are useless. And like what's his motivation for all this other than like I want to
What?
be the ultimate ruler?
What are you trying to accomplish? He's talked about like making the colony strong. It's like you're killing 3/4 of the colony.
Yeah,
How
I
the
don't. There's
fuck is
not a
that a
really.
strong colony?
There's not really a clear sense of what his goal is. We know what his plan is, but we don't really know what his goal is after the plan. And I think you're right, Pat, where it's just like he's just a fascist and he's only thinking about the first layer, and then
Yeah.
he'll figure out that next part once he gets there.
Yeah,
But I
like
think,
we're gonna kill the undesirables, and that
yeah,
in itself is a means to an end.
and to him,
Without
the
ever,
undesirables, and to him, the undesirables are the soldiers that are loyal to the queen, which is why he's sending them to the termite hill to die, and all of the workers because he needs to start again.
Frankly, anyone who's of no use to him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and at first I was like, is his plan to then like wipe everybody out and make everybody soldiers and to just be like a conquering force of ants?
Or he gets the princess who becomes the queen, and then all of his all of this, everybody in the whole colony
That's what
are
I'm
his
saying
offspring.
And he's going to train only soldiers. That's what I mean to say. It's like, obviously that's why he wants the princess, is because she's going to be his new baby factory, right? And he'll be in charge. That's the plan. But what is the goal? I don't know. And I don't think the movie knows, and I don't think the movie cares, and it doesn't really matter because the movie, he gets thwarted anyway. And it's a kids movie, so you don't really need to have that many layers of dynamism within the movie for us to appreciate what the story is, right? It's more about like Woody Allen at the end saying like, and there you go, it's a classic boy meet girl, girl meet boy, inadvertently change society or whatever. And let's, that's basically it. He's right.
What an outro,
yeah.
Fuck, I remember listening to that and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, okay, Woody.
Yeah.
But they head out of the hill. They get into a battle immediately. Their platoon is the first into battle. Z's platoon. The ants don't find anything, but the termites attack out of the walls of the thing that they walk into. It's almost like a culling, as I've said a couple times. Like the general knew that the termites were advanced, and they're shooting acid everywhere. And basically, what happens is this giant war happens. Zed disappears, like he just hides, and when he emerges, he's the only person left. So when he goes back home, he's just a war hero because of it. Before that, goes back over. There's this like little side plot here where Weeva just wants, he's a soldier and he wants those worker ladies.
Yeah, because they switch places. Yeah, and he's like, hey, how about them worker ladies? Yeah. Horny.
He gets his rations taken away because he refuses to, like, weirdly enough, fall in line because he's asking questions. And the worker ant girl that he falls in love with is kind of like, now that my rations are taken away, I need to eat. Do you want to go to dinner? Which was a fun bit. I mentioned the Forrest Gump of it all. The how bad is it? He's just ahead. We talked about that a little bit, and I wanted to know, was that a reference to actual biology? Can an ant exist as just a head? Like a starfish can, like, it can.
An ant head
Say
can
more.
exist. Yes, it can exist for, I don't think it's very long, but the head will remain alive. Like you can get an ant to pinch down on something and rip its head off, and it'll keep biting for an extended period of time. Which, and like a lot of insects, you can cut their head off and their body will keep walking around. I thought that was going to be the bit when I was a kid, is that his body was going to be like walking around with no head for a little while before it collapsed. But maybe that's a little too morbid. I'm sure it's around here somewhere.
I love. So after that, when they come back and Z is, pronounced a war hero, they have this whole thing where they're celebrating him, and obviously the general is a little bit apprehensive of him. But I fucking hated this when the princess was like, oh yeah, I was dancing with this worker ant at a bar the other night. And they're like, worker ant? No, he's a soldier. And she was like, nah, he's a worker ant. We were at a bar. And I'm like, how fucking unaware of the social structure are you that you would just blow his spot and just, like, as if you didn't know that everyone around you was going to have a problem with that whole scenario? Like, the naivety of the princess was hard for me to believe at times, where I was just like, come on.
But I think her point there was because she says he
Right,
was a
because-
worker.
because
He
he's
was a
coming up.
worker. Yeah, he was a worker, but now he's a soldier, which means that we're not all stuck in the positions that we're assigned to. We can change. And like he did. Look, he was a fucking dirty worker the other day, and now he's a war hero. Like that's crazy. That's crazy that he can
Right.
do that, and we can all do that. I think that was the point she was trying to make, but I think you're also right that like within the conversation that's being had right now, these are not the people to talk to about
Well,
this.
yeah, as if your mother and your betrothed wasn't going to be pissed.
The
that
only
you
thing
were
that the
fucking
only thing,
with some dude at a bar the other
Yeah.
night.
the only thing they're concerned about is that she was at a bar. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You were
Wait,
at
you
a
were at
bar?
a bar with
Yeah.
the pores?
Wait, which bar did you go to? And she's like, Chug. You're like, oh fuck, Chug. Not that
The worst bar around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, actually,
and
no, Butt Chug is the worst bar around. But Chug is slightly better.
that's the gay bar.
Whoa.
I don't think that that's too
There should be
untoward.
one in every anthill.
Exactly. At least several. The Butt Chug Street. There is there is
Butt
that
Chug
moment.
Street. Welcome to Butt Chug Street. It's all
You
drag
can find
queens,
anything that you want.
winks,
Yeah. They, as this whole conversation is kind of coming about, everything sort of comes to a head. People start, making moves, and Z grabs the princess as almost like a hostage, and they fall over
almost.
the.
He literally puts a toothpick up to her, and she's like,
Yeah.
not a step further, or the princess is gonna get such a vicious poking, or whatever. He says something stupid, but I can't remember what it is.
And they fall out of the anthill.
Into the trash tube, I guess. I don't know. It's a trash tube. and it
Yeah, and
shoots
then
you out of the hill.
falls
Yeah, like
out
what are
of the
they
hill
wading through?
into the grass? Which is
Yeah.
that's not how an anthill works. Like, how do you fall out of a trash chute and somehow land in the grass? But yeah, neither here nor there.
You guys are being a little too harsh on my old pal Antz, okay?
Wait, but one of the funniest things that I noticed was when they fall out and they land on each other and whatever. One of the first things that Z says is, "Don't worry, I'm okay."
Yeah.
Which again was this like is such an egotistical, self-serving, infuriating. Like it was such a throwaway line, but it pissed me off so bad.
Yeah,
Like, don't
it's
worry,
also-
I'm okay. And she was like, as if I fucking gave a shit.
And it's like it's not in like the same vein as something like what's a good character, like a Tony Stark or something, where like at
Right.
least there's a tongue-in-cheek sort of attitude towards it, where it's like I'm
Yeah.
expected to be selfish, so I'm going to say the selfish thing because it's kind of charming and funny.
Yeah, as
Whereas
if he
he's
knows
saying it- Yeah, you're like Woody
they're,
Allen
like,
actually believes
he
it. Like,
wants to play it cool. Right, yeah, Woody Allen's just like, don't worry, I'm fine. And she's
Yeah.
like, I don't fucking care, you nerd.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm not injured at all.
Crawl out through the fallout, baby.
And then they do bonk heads pretty hard, which is good. There's a lot of like weird contact in this movie that like it just like it's satisfying, I guess, visually to me, where I'm like I feel the impact, not in the same sort of floaty way as like actually there's a good example in like Toy Story when Buzz hits the ground when he falls out the back of the truck when they're moving, the moving truck.
Oh, and he like rolls.
Yeah, and there's this sort of satisfying weight to it.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
that kind of exists a lot in this movie throughout, and I appreciate like another one is when the general smacks dab into that root. You're just like, yeah.
Well,
fuck yeah.
I think that's always been a sign of really good animation, whether it be 2D or 3D, is having a sense of weight, having a sense of like urgency and intensity and heaviness.
Yeah, because even if you look at early Reboot, there's a lot of floatiness to things where you don't quite feel that, where it's like the animation isn't quite there yet for everything to feel like it's organically moving. There's like a stiffness to it, but
yeah,
The old Reboot episodes, I noticed going back and watching old bits, was they love to do like the zoom in as just sort of like a reaction shot a lot of times in that show.
That's because it's cheap to animate and it adds a lot of fucking intensity without having to do a lot of animation. You just like you zoom in, you're not actually animating anything except Bob's face going
right. It's kind of like the vertigo focus the Dutch focus, where you zoom in and you change the focus of it like that. Of like, you don't have to animate anything. It's just the illusion of movement.
Exactly. Reboot does it all the time, and I fucking love Reboot.
Geniuses. Absolutely. The fucking benchmark.
For the era.
Standard.
A good thing that this movie does is it keeps it moving, because as soon as they fall out into the grass,
the goo,
they come into the goo and the weird, like it looked like molted exoskeletons of old ants or something. Like that's what their garbage would be, I guess, because they don't really produce anything. But when they're in the grass, they get to a picnic, and it's like daytime. It's nice. And I wrote, it's God's magnifying glass. And I started having this like almost existential crisis before the weird stoner bugs even.
So this is way before the picnic, but I assume it's the same kid. Like it's just some kid wandering around the park, right?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Just the one kid.
It's probably just one kid who's like,
well, it's like probably 3 feet from the anthill to the picnic.
So not very far.
Jumping around,
So
and he starts
probably the kid. Because you don't see the
zapping
shoes.
everybody.
You don't see the shoes at this part, but you do see, the big magnifying glass. And I never burned ants when I was a kid, but I did melt.
Neither did I.
I did melt army men.
Yeah, same.
I did.
I have seen
action figures.
I have seen somebody else
murdering stuff.
Yeah,
look at us. We're not sociopaths.
Great. I did see a kid do it, like burn ants, and I got.
I hung out with kids that used to like shoot frogs with BB guns.
Yeah,
man, what the fuck?
I witnessed people put frogs in a plastic bag and smash it to bits. And
and I realized I hated those people very early on.
So does
and I was vindicated as I grew up.
And their parents.
As adults, they're trash now. I don't like those people.
They're all in prison.
Well,
the guy that I saw burn ants did go to prison. He was in prison. So
none of the ones I know go to. They none of them went to prison, but they are garbage. They're garbage people. But I'm curious, and when I was watching the movie, it actually occurred to me when Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin's characters came on screen. I was like, I wonder if they've ever done Coneheads. Have you guys done Coneheads? Did you grow up on Coneheads?
I grew up on. So the weird thing about Coneheads, just really quickly, I remember watching it on SNL when I was a little kid. Right. And the funny thing about that movie is, unlike other SNL sketches that become movies, they waited a decade almost to make a movie out of it. It wasn't like, here's the big fame, like It's Pat came out in the same time It's Pat sketches were on SNL. Right. But for some reason they were like, let's make this weird sci-fi comedy.
Well, I think it's because they hadn't been making SNL movies of their skits, and then this was the era where they did start doing that. So they're like, well, we've got a couple in the vault we can pull out.
Wayne's World is a huge hit. Do you think Coneheads has it in? But I think that would be it's, hey, did you see this one movie?
I think it'd be a solid one.
I don't know why when I was a kid, the cover for Coneheads freaked me the fuck out. Like, it's scary.
I mean, it is unsettling. I'll give you that.
So I never watched it as a kid. I did watch it as a teenager, and it's funny, but we've never done it on the show.
Okay, well, I guess that's my next episode.
Okay.
Right.
And I will hire someone to put a cone on this dumb
on my head. Yeah.
I will legitimately do this show with a cone head.
All right, you're gonna have to put your
hold me to that.
You're gonna have to put your camera in like phone mode or whatever. Yeah,
I want to do cone heads.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's gonna be a shirt.
We have done an alien abduction month once before. We could bring that one back for the cone heads.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, you find a theme month where it fits in, great. But I think it'd be a great movie. Also, I just want to rewatch it. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and I remember it was another one of those movies in this kind of same era. I think I was a little older, but I was like, yeah, this movie is weird and kind of risque, and I think it was when my sense of humor was developing, where I was like, okay, there's some shit here that I can work with.
You're like, wait a minute, this is the gag isn't just that they have cones for heads, there's jokes in this.
Like
he's chewing on a condom.
They can unhinge their jaw like five steps.
Ugh.
when the magnifying glass starts vaporizing the ants, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool effect. And like you guys were saying earlier, also I noticed at this point that Bala's characterization is really all over the place. I can't tell if she's one of those, like, she wants to break free of her royal duties, or if she's just still wants to kind of fall in line, because she's treating Z like he's an asshole, and he kind of is, which
Well,
he
he
sort
is,
of
yeah.
made
She's
me
like,
believe.
he's
not doing a good job of like sweeping her off her feet, I think is my point.
Yeah, she says to him, all you think about is yourself, but more than once.
Yeah.
And then dresses him down and berates him. She was like, I only picked you while we were there that night because you were the most pathetic worker in the place.
And that's when he's like, fuck you, and leaves. He's like, bye. Yeah, I don't give a shit.
That's, again, I think that was a big part of the mixed messages that I was getting from this movie, where I was just like, what are they trying to say here?
I think she's just a poorly written character.
She's not
realistic, and I mean, he's not really the best written character either, but at least he has a character that is consistent, which is...
I think it might have been the least interesting romantic pairing since Twilight.
Do you know what was top of mind while I watched this whole thing? Have you guys ever seen the Harrison Ford film 6 Days, 7 Nights?
I have not.
It's basically he's like the pilot of a cosmopolitan rich lady, and they crash on an island, and it's this kind of similar to the movie Lagoon, I think, as well. But they basically fall in love because they're trapped in this situation together, sort of like a pirate situation.
Boba Fett or Jango Fett is the main pirate.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of the pirates from the early 2000s.
No, they're modern.
The porno film.
Is that not
with Jesse Jane
we were talking about? Okay, no, sorry, that
I don't know what you're
different
talking
taste.
about.
Then different taste.
There's a porno called Pirate. Is that
it was the highest budget porno.
I have heard of this. I've never seen it, but I have heard of the highest budgeted pornography film ever made. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, hate that joke didn't land.
It doesn't. It does its job.
I'm sure some perverts out there are laughing, slapping their knees, getting the ants out of their pants, if you will.
Come on, where are my perverts at? Get in the comments.
Where are my perverts at?
Where are my perverts at?
6 Days, 7 Nights is what this. Hey, he's here. He's always.
To me, my perverts.
To me, my perverts. That's what this interact. If you guys haven't seen, Steve, I think you said you're aware of the movie. Anyway, thank you. Yes,
I'm Professor X if he was on the sex offender registry.
Professor Sex.
Diddle.
Diddle.
Okay, all right, but no, we're done.
Listen, so they have a little bit of a fight, and Bala tells Z that she picked him because he was the most pathetic, and he says he was. He says the weird thing where he's like, "And I was going to let you be a part of my erotic dreams."
He says wildest erotic
fantasies.
Yeah. That's some real fucking pervert shit.
Let's have marinade for a second.
Yeah, no, what a line.
He does get some
erotic fantasies. You mean the ones that involve your stepdaughter? You fucking
she also does make the most disgusted face when he says that, though. She's like, ugh, what the fuck? Also, how do ants have sex? I don't know anything about ants.
Shoot pheromones or something, right?
There's the queen again. A larva every 10 seconds. I think the queen's the only one.
Yeah, but does she just produce asexually, or is it like, does she need to have like?
It's probably
weird...
like
It's a good question.
It's probably like not a pheromone, but
yes, ants have sex. Ants reproduce sexually with winged male and female ants, known as flying ants. So
Oh.
only the flying ones can procreate, which is weird because Bala doesn't have wings, which
No.
means she
Neither
can't
does he.
Well, she's not
He's
a queen
impotent.
yet.
But neither does the general. I think is more accurate because he's the one who wants to procreate with her, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Z wants to, but the general
Right.
plans to.
I think it's things where like, do we see a flying ant in the film?
Cutter.
Yeah. Cutter's a flying ant. He flies
Cutter
all over.
fucks then.
Yeah, Cutter is the one
That's
who's
what
making all
we're
those
saying.
babies with the queen.
Yeah,
I believe in
okay.
A Bug's Life, the princess in that movie has wings. I think that
Cutter fucks and General Mandible cucks, I think is what's
Yeah,
going
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's not.
Steve, you just frowned, but in a smile formation. That was the worst.
It's a talent only I have.
Hey, pubes. Thanks to the Sonar Podcast Network for your contributions to this podcast today. Out here, you can't order me around, says Z to Bala, because she's like, I'm going home, and he's like, nah, we're gonna keep going.
And he's like, good, I don't really like you anymore anyway, you sick bitch. Leave me alone. Every woman is terrible. And then he takes a red pill and then he starts calling her, the horrible, horrible names, and he gets on the internet and starts whacking it in the comments like a perv.
Bad mouth to everyone that
he goes full incel basically at this point, but he's not dropping the woe is me act, but he does now have a more feasible plan, and that is to go to Insectopia and live out his days eating garbage, which as a bug that's pretty good.
As a human, that sounds pretty good.
I love that his entire plan is leave ant society completely and figure out how to be self-sufficient, being such a worthless asshole. Like, cool, you just think you're gonna live in this utopia. And I love that once he gets there, and again, I hate to be skipping ahead, but there's a line that really stood out to me is he hasn't contributed anything yet. Like some of the other bugs look at him and they're like, well, what about that guy? He hasn't done fucking shit. Why don't we get him to build a fire?
You know what? I never put that together that they're like,
I love that his idea is just like, I'm gonna go live in the utopia and not add anything whatsoever. And then he gets there and these fucking stoner bugs are just like, what about that guy? Like, maybe we should ask him to lift a finger.
Yeah.
What
about the new guy? He hasn't contributed anything yet. Is literally a line. He hasn't contributed, and he doesn't plan to.
What about the new guy? He hasn't contributed anything yet, and he doesn't plan to because he's a selfish prick.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, true, man. He's been riding the roller coaster all day and hasn't even lifted one matchstick yet.
I think you're just here for the zip line.
Yeah.
What?
I understand that reference. What? The general
part of that whole bit is when he scarfs his food down so quickly so that he can go back to
slams hot dogs and it's like,
yeah.
Over at the general, he tells the queen that he's going to save the princess, and the people are all gossiping about the situation. They mention the vaporization of the soldiers, and I wrote, it's communism time. Z is now a revolutionary, and they're going to start a revolution. Z and Bala keep going, and they get trapped in a water droplet and make it to a lake. And Z convinces Bala to go with him across the lake. And back at the colony, the whole colony is full on revolutionizing, but the general does like a speech and fully like they're chanting for Z, and he tells them that
the crowd.
Yeah,
he placates the crowd by being like, if this Z is so important and special, then why isn't he here now? And you're like, oh God, okay. And they all shut up immediately. Like they don't even. It's almost like his version of his plan, which is just the surface level, is the same thing that they're going through, which is like, we should revolt. And they're like, okay, now what? Now what do we do? Unionize? They have no plan beyond it.
Make a sign that says we're revolutionizing, and then nothing else.
Well, and that's like propaganda 101 of just like,
absolutely.
Oh, you have someone who's gonna lead you. Where is he now? Like, why isn't he revolutionizing?
Which one of you is
right
he?
now all the time? And it's like, yeah, you can't just. Why isn't he being the God King Emperor 24/7, and it's like, that.
Yeah,
I kind of like that as a depiction of fascism and propaganda.
I think even as a kid, when I was watching it, I was expecting the crowd to do almost like a Spartacus thing, where they're like, I'm Z too," but that's like something that would be at the end of a movie, right? Not in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
But I also, as a child, was disappointed in the Ants. I was like, "Come on, guys, you just revolted." Like, come on.
Yeah, like, have a backbone. Fuck.
And this guy is so clearly evil. He just
it's like living in North America. It's like living in North America, watching the people in France burn shit down, and you're like, "Huh?
Why aren't we burning shit down?"
Yeah.
But then you're to yourself.
I don't know. I'm
like,
going to work tomorrow. God.
Yeah, like I got work tomorrow, and also like burning stuff seems so provincial.
Right?
My back hurts.
Yeah.
I don't have health care. I'm tired.
I might get a burn on my hand. Then what happen? I'll be hurting.
I ran out of
that kind of frustrated me as well. That whole scene of just like, are you really buying this from this fucking general dude? Because
and like the way this world exists, you're like, this general probably makes like 3 speeches a week. Like he probably, it seems like he does at least. We see him make, I think, 4 to 5 speeches in this movie alone. And you're like, the movie takes place over like 3 days, 4 days maybe, and he makes 5 individual speeches over that period of time.
But he can rouse the people. Like he's the ability.
Very charismatic.
Yeah.
He's got a booming voice that travels, and Gene Hackman has such an interesting cadence that it's kind of difficult not to listen to him when he's speaking. So I get it.
Z and Bala they find a thermos and a whole picnic, and they think it's Insectopia. And I noticed that there's great score strings during this part. It felt like almost like a premature
ejaculation.
Yep, thank you, Insectopia. And that's when they meet.
It's communism time.
I'm a revolutionary. No, you're not. Okay, I'm not. I'm not a revolutionary. They meet the wasps. They say that they're from the ant colony, and they call them Eurotrash, which I thought was funny.
Even worse, they're Eurotrash.
Yeah.
I did not realize this was Dan Aykroyd, and I didn't realize that Dan Aykroyd was so good at voices, because like he usually does the same voice in everything that he's in. Like he doesn't really play
Ray Stantz
caricatures very often. Yeah, I mean, that is probably the movie I've seen the most with him is Ghostbusters. But like even stuff where he like Coneheads or what's that one where he's got the penis for the nose with Chevy Chase? He plays like a weird, gross man inside a junkyard. What the fuck is that movie called? Dan Aykroyd, Junkyard King. What's it called? You guys don't know what I'm talking about?
I can't. Once you say it, I might know. Yeah.
This is a real. It's called Nothing But Trouble. This is a real.
Okay.
I see this one.
No.
He plays like he looks almost like a Dickensian character. But he's got like his dick, his nose literally is like a prosthetic nose that looks like a dick. It's so crazy. And,
no, yeah, that's a movie that popped up in one of those like comedies you've never seen but you should, and it's got an all-star cast, right? It's got a bunch of people in it.
Yes, I mean, yes, we'll say yes. I'm not going to say no. I'm trying to bring up a picture of it so you guys can see.
And there's humans added to the mix here. We get the fly swatter bit where a fly swatter kills the woman wasp, the Jane Curtin wasp, and they get stuck to the gum on the bottom of the kid's shoe. And Z does a crazy like action jump from one shoe to the other, and he grabs onto the shoestring and swings up and gets stuck into the gum on the bottom of the shoe, and he gets flung on a penny into a garbage can.
Now, are we going to get flagged for this?
No, probably not. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Yeah. That's a glance.
Yeah. So that's,
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a nose.
But also, like, the nose changes throughout the movie, too. Like, it becomes more penis-like throughout the movie, which is wild.
That's so much funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it starts sort of as a regular nose, and the more it's almost like they had like 4 or 5 different prosthetic noses, and every once in a while they just really put it in there to be like, so that like the people watching it could be like, it looks like a dick, and then they would see another shot and they're like, oh wait, it doesn't really look like a dick now. Wait, now it looks so much like a dick.
Now that's comedy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also Tupac's in that movie for like 5 seconds.
Hell yeah.
Well, once they get to the garbage can, it goes over to Weeva, who's being interrogated. He refuses to give up Z.
Wait, did we talk about Muffy getting killed already?
No, yeah, Muffy, I mentioned it.
Okay, good.
I mentioned it, but a penis nose sort of buried the lead.
Derailed the conversation.
With the dickness thing, yeah.
Weeva tells the general about Insectopia, which the general already knows about it. And
yeah, it's a real Area 51 like Independence Day moment where it's like
right.
Insectopia doesn't exist, and he's like, well, actually, it does. Yeah, it's like what?
But we don't want you to know.
Yeah. We've known about it for years. You'd think that if they knew about it for years, they would be sending platoons of soldiers to take full sandwiches back to the, like.
And this is what I was saying about, picnic raids being the cornerstone of any ant army, you would think, right?
But if he knows about, for sure. But if he knows about the garbage can, then why is he not sending people constantly? But I don't know. Maybe it goes against his plan of domination. I don't know. He needs to create like a scarcity and a need to like quell everybody. Because if they have unlimited food, then nobody's going to want to dig the tunnel.
Which is another commentary on capitalism, is that you hold planned scarcity, planned obsolescence, the creating this culture of want and need, so people keep toiling even though their needs can be met fairly simply.
Yeah, it's like over and over again people have demonstrated on paper like exactly how we could have everybody live.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah,
all we have to do is not have people who have multi-billions of dollars. Like all we need to do is like make the hierarchy less top heavy, and that's it. And I think an ant colony is a great example of that. Of just like, I want 70% of the ant colony, so just us good people can be stuck around.
I think that A Bug's Life is very similar in its structure. I can't really remember A Bug's Life, but I think it has more to do with that being the literal crux of the movie is like resource hoarded and storage, whereas like
because they're farming resources and they have to like pay a cut to the grasshoppers.
Oh yes,
the grasshoppers are like, we'll bust your ass, and like the grasshoppers are basically running a protection racket in A Bug's Life.
Right.
So they can get their food from the ants who they're exploiting. So it's a much more like direct reference to capitalism exploiting worker value.
If I remember correctly, isn't there like a whole speech by the Kevin Spacey grasshopper where he's like, there's like 1 billion of them and there's so few of us. If they wanted to, they could easily wipe us out. But we have to get scared.
Yeah. Which Antz, I think, is a little more complex in its commentary because it's a lot of internal strife between class relationships in an ant colony. Like it's not ants versus grasshoppers versus wasps versus whatever. It's all kind of an internal class structure.
It's ant versus ant.
Yeah. It's workers and royalty and military. It's kind of the 3 branches there.
Yeah.
So it makes for a little more interesting and complex commentary on societal.
I agree. That's why Antz is the superior film to A Bug's Life.
That is largely my point. I think. Although I haven't rewatched A Bug's Life.
It's the opinion I held as a 9-year-old, and it's the opinion I still hold to this day.
My class consciousness was sharp even when I was 11.
Even when I was 11, I was like, "Let them eat cake. How about guillotines, everybody?"
Yeah. How about fuck these fascist motherfuckers? We're done with this.
On the way home, I'm like, Dad, why do billionaires exist? Shouldn't we tax them at 90% of their money? My dad was like, what? He's hacking butts in the car. I
gotta work tomorrow. Shut up.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I mean, I guess I would like to talk a little bit about the Insectopia moment because I think it's like so beautifully done and it's fun. What is the song playing? I can't remember. It is a very like New Yorky. It's a Woody Allen-ish type thing. Let me see if I can find it.
I can see clearly now.
Yeah, the rain has gone.
There it is. Yeah,
gonna be alright. But I think it's a cover. It's not like the
absolutely
actual version. But which I guess is appropriate. You know, if you're gonna choose a song, because they're both living in a world of clarity here, realizing that there's far more to the world outside of the colony, and there's a different way of living. But I like that they're, this is where they crunch the romanticism into this moment to like make the relationship believable by having a montage of them having fun, which is, fine, I guess. But he also did try to save her during the picnic incident. Muffy gets killed. They get stepped on by a giant shoe, and she gets stuck into the gum on the bottom. And he rescues her, sort of. Not really. All he does is really join her. Did you guys notice that during the scene where he's like on one shoe and the other one is like going across, like that Sharon Stone's audio is like fully fucking the shit out of that microphone that she's screaming into? I'm like, whoa, somebody did not check the levels before they recorded that, and they just didn't fix it. They could have put in any scream. It didn't have to be Sharon Stone, but she screamed so I don't know, like ear-piercingly well that whatever microphone she was screaming into just destroyed.
Just blew out the microphone.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy.
And that's
sound.
why they have Sly Stallone and not Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. So I guess like he did display a level of bravery, but at the same time, like in my opinion, he owes her one because she saved him from the water droplet. Like without a fucking second thought, she tries to save him from drowning, right? Like,
so this is something that occurred to me probably the second time I watched it approaching the third act, is that the reason I hate Z's character so much is that up until the end of the movie, he hasn't done a single fucking thing that wasn't completely self-serving. Like, he's got no character development. He has been going from plot point to plot point, pursuing his own gains and just trying to fulfill his own selfish needs, which is why I think the Christopher Walken character turn at the end is the most satisfying, because I'm like, yeah, no one else was developing. Thank fuck somebody did.
He has more of an arc than Z does, the main character.
Which is wild to me over
and you can
the course of
see
an hour and 20 minutes.
He's already questioned the general a little bit at this point.
Exactly, yeah.
When he goes to fly off and find them, he's kind of like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. The general's like, you fall in line, soldier. And he's kind of like, oh yeah, right.
But even like this is a testament to the animation, is like, even in the moments where he's explaining his plan to Cutter, you can see in Cutter's face that he's like, this is fucking insane. Like, are you crazy? Yeah. Like, you're a crazy person. And you can see it on his face.
You're a lunatic.
Yeah, like, what the and he's just going along with it because he has to, right? Like, he doesn't know any other way. But
there's a moment really early on where he kind of sicks Cutter on. He's like, well, anyone's gonna have to deal with Colonel Cutter. And he's like, I mean, I'm not. You can tell he's not the kind of guy to come down on people unnecessarily. So it seems like an empty threat, where like that was the most complex relationship in the whole film for me.
I agree. But he is also threatening. Like, visually he's very, angular and sharp and tall and menacing. He's kind of like a Darth Maul or something, right? Where he's like this sort of stoic, silent creature who's angular and scary.
He's got a strength of will too. Like he's very matter of fact about shit.
And when he does eventually land and give his speech, like even that speech, up until now he's been fairly soft spoken and agreeable, and you like I was saying, the Walken comes out here where like he's becoming he's almost like putting on the persona of like a snake or a blade, like something that is like threatening without actually threatening anybody. Just his presence and his cadence is like it's sharp and
it's like
cutting.
someone's trying to make a point, but they're holding a knife, and you're like,
yeah, exactly. But he is the knife.
Yeah. And thankfully, I think very rightly so, they gave his character more screen time, and it made the movie better ultimately, because I don't think a lot of the other character development or the script was doing a lot of heavy lifting.
I can't imagine, like, because like he already has so little in the movie that like how much more did they add?
He was a glorified henchman for the first little bit. Like in that first scene, it was just like, oh yeah, he's like an attack dog that the main villain is kind of using to threaten his enemies.
He's like a Darth Vader, pre like Return of the Jedi, you know, where he's just
where he's just kind of looming. I was going to mention that
earlier, actually.
He's cool though, man. I forgot that it was Christopher Walken, so when I came back, I was like, oh man, nice. I remember this Colonel guy being freaky as fuck, and like that's a good choice. For some reason, I thought Bruce Campbell was in this movie, and I'm like, isn't Bruce Campbell because Bruce Campbell's in one of these animated movies where the cast is stacked. I remember being like, Bruce Campbell, and for some reason I thought it was this, but it wasn't.
I'm so happy whenever I see Bruce Campbell in anything.
Me too.
Of course,
he deserves so much more, but I mean, he's got enough, I guess. But
he's got a lot.
He's one of those guys that I'm like, he should have been bigger than he is. Yeah.
Should have been a contender.
I have a copy of his autobiography, If Chins Could Kill, Confessions of a B-Movie Actor. Yeah. And I bought it from a used bookstore, and it was signed by him. So I still want to track him down at a convention and like get him to cross the other person's name out and put my name underneath it. Just like, you don't have to sign it again. Just like, I want my name.
Just put my name there,
Or also sign it again directly underneath your signature. So I have two signatures on one book.
Or do it in a different color over top of the other one. So it's a double signature.
In silver, the silver marker.
I'll have to highlighter. Like petition for him to come to HalCon just
to do it.
Yeah.
I heard like a fun story from John Hodgman, where like John Hodgman used to be I think he was like a copywriter for like for books, and like that came across his desk one day where they were trying to get it published, and he worked for this publishing house, and he like used every ounce of power he had within that company as like a low level employee to try and get that book published. And it ended up being like the best decision that publishing company had ever made, because like they were kind of floundering and dying, and like he somehow convinced them to. And like the people who owned the company were like, who the fuck is Bruce Campbell? And he's like, trust me.
Yeah,
you don't understand. The weirdos who go to all these conventions, who literally buy books all the time. That's one of the things that people buy the most at conventions are books. You'll see sales almost instantaneously, and they did. And I don't know. That's just a cool little thing.
Bruce Campbell just saves more lives.
Yeah,
because it's what he does. The man saves lives.
Not only does that chin kill, but it saves as well. It saves lives.
It kills into a saving feature.
Also, I wanted to continue off of your point, Pat, earlier, where you're like, he never has a moment of self-reflection or self-reflection, I should say, literally up until the point that he's dropped off outside. Because even when Bala gets kidnapped, he's going through the motions of like, do I go and try and save her, or do I stay here in paradise? I worked really hard to get here. And he's like, he's arguing with himself.
He's always self-serving.
And he's like, I deserve to be here in paradise. I did
go back. Nothing.
Yeah, I accidentally got here.
I deserve this because I'm me.
I didn't track that about Z, because he's also very much just like the main protagonist. So I didn't think about it on that level, but it's interesting that you guys have talked about it like that for this whole episode. He really is just the worst.
Yeah. Every motivation that he has throughout the whole film is self-serving. Almost every single story beat, and that.
It's funny though, because like in the original,
the other characters.
Yeah. In the original script, Z was like a hero, but all of this was just Woody Allen rambling into the microphone while he was reading the lines, and they just kept it all in.
It's like,
I don't
shit, we gotta
understand why
rewrite
would
around
Z.
him.
Yeah, Z deserves to be here. He
It's
really
very-
worked hard.
It's very Seinfeldian in its
Yeah, very much so.
in its execution, because he literally is having all these neurotic moments that, as a viewer, you're going, "Shut up! You're supposed to be the hero." But he
that's
thinks
what all
he's
of Seinfeld is, right? I mean, I guess it's just sort of the idea of like, sort of like Jewish New York humor. A lot of the time is like deprecation and stating the obvious in a way that is like selfish, I guess. Like that's almost all of Seinfeld is just like a bunch of selfish idiots, right? Just like sitting around complaining, right?
Yeah.
But I mean that's sort of like what's charming about it, and I guess that's what people like about Woody Allen as well. And like I should be clear, like I fucking hate Z, but I also find him very funny. Like every time he's doing his rambles and rants, I'm kind of like chuckling, being like, what a fucking pathetic moron. Like, he's so
Well,
stupid.
and that's, I feel like that's why I had to watch the movie 3 times, is because I had to kind of rationalize Z's role in the whole movie. Is that yes, he's entertaining and kind of funny, but he's also kind of a parody of the Ayn Randian, very like egotistical, individualistic main characters.
but also a parody of the traditional archetype of protagonist, because there you don't see, to bring up Tony Stark again, like Steve did earlier, like you don't see Tony Stark being like, oh geez, what if like I am not good enough and I have to do all these things that require me to be the hero, and that's what this character does the whole time.
Your Tony Stark sounds a little bit like Dr. Evil / Lorne Michaels.
No, I was doing Woody Allen there.
Oh, sounded like you were doing a fucking Robert Downey Jr. But yeah, I mean,
he's got a thick Connecticut accent if you've ever heard him talk for real.
But just to continue on what I was saying before, he continues it right up into the moment that he's literally dropped off outside the gate, because even while he's arguing with himself about whether or not he deserves to stay in Insectopia and whether he should even give a shit about Princess Bala, he's like, I could have got some action, but I'd rather stay here and eat sandwiches and drink Coca-Cola. But then like the bee, or the wasp, sorry, comes out of the wine bottle hammered, and he's just doesn't even give him the choice, picks him up and takes him. Like it's not even a discussion or an argument. He just basically is like, let's go. Like, I'm taking you back.
So let me just sort of catch the story up, and let's get all this on the same track here. Weeva leads the workers to dig out the colony. Walken leaves to get onto the trail. Z and Princess discuss Z's strangeness, and they almost kiss. The bugs in the area need more wood. The mosquito is like, wow, we're so small, like and insignificant. What if there's something bigger than this? Christopher Walken shows up. Cutter shows up. The princess hides. They give her up. Cutter is Walken. Okay. Thanks, notes.
That's when you finally realize, you're like, oh, Christopher Walken.
Christopher Cutter.
Christopher Walken. Got it.
Cutter sort of thinks for himself a little bit. Tells him, oh, this is also back over to the general telling Cutter to think for himself. Tells him Z is dead as well. Takes the princess. Oh wait, my notes got a little bit scrambly here. The wasp man takes Z back. Sorry, my notes got a little bit scrambled there.
We already did this.
I know. I'm just getting us caught up from the plot standpoint. Princess gives General what for, and things are going to change. But he's going to keep her here. So back at remember they get back to the colony, and she goes into the general's office basically, and he keeps her sort of as a prisoner. And then because he goes back with Cutter first. She goes back with Cutter first. Wasp comes out of the bottle, and my notes got fucking messed up.
I can easily do this without looking at a notebook if you'd like me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've watched this movie way too many times lately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait,
there's a moment where he's like, drink this coffee, and he's like, I don't need coffee, we're flying.
Before we skip past it, when right before Cutter arrives and does his whole speech, the flies and the mosquitoes are sitting there and literally eating shit and talking about how much they like it.
And you know,
He's like, "This is great."
Yeah,
This
you
is
know,
awesome.
it's like, this tastes like shit. You know,
He's
know.
like,
That's
"Oh
what
yeah, it's shit. Nice."
They're like, can we get away with saying shit in a PG movie? And the studio was like, DreamWorks was like, I mean, we could, but it's gonna be hard. We're gonna have to maybe. And then they're like, let's just call it crap. You can say crap because crap can mean anything. It doesn't.
You're right. Yeah.
And like saying poop would be dumb. It wouldn't be as funny as crap.
It'd be too childish.
But
I love that they were sitting there just like, hey, taste this. It tastes like
the
crap.
only word I hate.
Delicious.
Yeah.
The only word I hate more than
not bad. Not bad. It's not bad at all.
The only word I hate more than poop is poo. Just wanted to throw that in there.
All right. I think the joke would have been way funnier if they said shit, because saying something tastes like shit is so funny.
But
just
I love
the word shit in general.
Very short-lived. Yeah. I would love to see two of them played by Cheech and Chong, but what do you do?
It's weird that they didn't get those two to do it, because like
I want to see. I want to see what was left on the cutting room floor with Cheech and Chong, because I'm sure it was in that scene. And
it must have been. You would have thought, because the mosquito literally looks stoned, like he's got red eyes.
Exactly.
From drinking gasoline or whatever the heck he's been doing. And I mean, there's a big oil spill around there. So I'm wondering, like, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was extended. Maybe it was too short to have the recognition of like them talking kind of thing. But you know, the old stoner dads would hear fucking.
It would have made perfect sense.
Cheech and Chong, and
for the mosquito and the other bug to just be Cheech and Chong. It would have made more sense.
Perfect. So he makes his impassioned speech. Shit happens. So we get to a point where, you know, I'm thinking of like the final sequence where they try to drown the whole colony and they all have to band together and yada yada. It's like,
I had to go back and rewatch this today because I watched it and my brain drifted away during this whole last sequence where I'm like, I don't care anymore. And it's not like I wasn't watching. My eyes were looking at the screen, but my brain was thinking of other things. I was not paying attention, so I had to go back and watch it today. And when I watched it again today, I was like, no, I got it. I didn't miss anything. I just
I don't think the sequence was exciting.
I ironically sent you a message, Pat. I don't think you got it because I sent it on Messenger, but I said it was like 3 a.m. when I messaged you being like, the end of this movie kind of rules. But I was like being ironic, but I was so tired that I'm like, he's not going to understand that I'm being ironic in this statement right now.
And I wouldn't have. I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Who is this?
Especially on Messenger, which I check like once a month. I'm gonna go back there and be like, "What the fuck were you talking?"
You're gonna.
About?
You want to talk to Pat? You got to get him on Discord.
Being ironic,
because I'm a modern man.
I'm a modern man.
But the end of the movie kind of fell flat for me too, because visually it was kind of interesting because you had all of those ant models, and like back in the 3D era, that was huge to have this like huge leaning tower of ant bodies. It was like a super complex thing to do when modeling the animation. But other than that, it wasn't an exciting sequence at all. Nothing was really happening.
Yeah, and there's not really stakes going on. What the?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, we're all gonna drown, or we have to band together, or we're all gonna drown.
Steve, you might have to just leave and come back. You're frozen on the small screen, and you're full black on your regular screen.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
Oh no!
All right, give me 1 second. Keep talking.
Well, when Z goes back, there's a really funny sequence of him talking to the idiot soldiers and being like, I got to go to the tunnel opening ceremony. I'm the guest of honor. I'm going to the tunnel opening ceremony.
And they're like, what are you doing? Get out of here. And he's like, I'm a very
tunnel opening ceremony.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, go ahead. He finally finds the princess. They kiss, and they discover that General Mandible is going to kill the whole colony with the water mega tunnel that they're digging into. And General does yet another speech, and the queen tells him to find Bala. Cutter tries to talk the general down. They seal the chamber. Z and Bala almost get squished by a rock that falls. They hop across the heads of the ants, which I thought was funny. And the princess tells the queen about the situation simultaneously to Zed gets to Weeva. They simultaneously tell the queen and the workers.
Zed. His name's not Zed.
I know. I keep doing that by accident. Z. A hole is made because they keep digging the hole because that's the grand plan. And
that's how you get out of a hole is you dig upward.
You dig up, stupid.
Dig up, stupid. Yeah.
No, the water is
taller this way. Even in the office when he's building the tower of like cards or something.
Yeah. The queen manages to tell everybody about the situation that's happening. Everybody fucking panics, and the water rushes in. The ants are all in a pile in the center with the water flowing in. Z,
but the water looks good, guys.
That's what I said at the very beginning. That's one thing that they nailed in 1998.
My camera while you were talking, I wasn't listening.
In video games and in CGI movies, water has looked good from basically the beginning.
I think it's because it's one of the easier things to animate. They figured it out because it's, they had to. Or if shitty water is so glaringly bad that they're like, we need to figure this water out. And then hair. We're gonna go from water and then eventually human eyeballs. We need to figure that out.
I'd say it's quite it's the opposite. It's the best animated because it's the most difficult thing to animate. So they kind of start from there and work.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Isn't it? Yeah, like now it is because it's so easy to fuck it up that they have to spend them. I shouldn't have worded it easiest. Easiest now.
You always start from the logic back.
Yeah.
The physics logic of water has been something that's probably the first thing that computer animators started with.
First thing
because once you can animate water, you can animate just about anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It has so many complex concepts of animation in it that you're just like, oh, okay, once we have water, we've got 90% of it.
Now that we got water, we can do goo, we can do thicker goo, we can do
acid
over here.
We can do sweat.
Blood. It's basically thicker than water a little bit, but it's
it's the same viscosity in CGI.
Actually, digital blood took a really long time for them to figure out because that was still looking bad for a while. A long time.
Digital squibs to this day look
like when like blood would pool and it would be digital. Like even sometimes now you'll see it and it still looks like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, call me old fashioned, but I prefer a good gallon of that real red Tim Burton blood.
Give me carrot syrup any day.
Yeah,
it's almost brown. It looks so good.
No, I don't like that brown fucking Zack Snyder blood. I like the fucking bright red Tim Burton blood from like Sweeney Todd and shit.
Yeah, give me that Evil Dead.
Fucking
pools of it everywhere.
So Z says, "Let's make a ladder." They make the ladder, and Weeva's girlfriend climbs to the top, and they manage to dig out. Cutter turns face. And Z and the General kind of have a little bit of a final battle fight, and they fight back into the pit. The soldiers help the workers out. Cutter saves Z. Bala revives him, and they all high five.
It's nice because it's not just Cutter, like just sort of being like, no, like as you would expect, sort of like the General ordering him to do something he disagrees with, and him just like standing up to him. It's like a full on. He's like, I think that's the weakest link or what I can't remember what the line is, but he helps.
It's like this is for the good of the colony.
Yeah, and then he has like a really good, satisfying line, and then Z finally does something heroic that isn't selfish, which is push Cutter out of the way from what the fuck, Mandible. And then so Mandible ends up falling in the hole with him, and then Cutter also saves Z from drowning. Like he doesn't just like In a lot of movies like this, where this sort of like tertiary character does a heel turn, you don't get any more gratification after the moment of turning. Like think Darth Vader, Return of the Jedi, like he throws the Emperor into the pit and then immediately falls over and dies or whatever, right? Like we do have a nice speech and we get the funeral, but like he doesn't do anything additionally heroic, which is cool. I like that. I like that they gave us a little bit more. It would have been less satisfying. I think.
Do you know what bugged
the movie to give me a little bit more?
Do you know what bugged me the most about this? Because the because the runtime of this film is only 70 minutes or 80 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm conditioned to have the final boss be defeated and then have a out from the grave for one last moment. When General Mandible is thrown into the pit, he's gone. And then when the movie,
I love it.
As the movie's ending, I'm going, there's not enough time. There's 5 minutes left. How is he going to come back? And I was just I really wanted a super shredder hand her to the rubble.
As soon as he hit, I'm like, he dead. He hit so fucking hard that I'm like,
the sound effect was like, ugh. Like I cringed. I was like, oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, they really wanted to.
And the
audience to make sure they knew he was dead.
Yeah, I mean, there is a world where they both fall in the water and they keep fighting in the water, and then Cutter comes down and kills
saves Z.
Yeah, and then leaves him to drown or something.
Yeah,
but I like that they made that differentiation where it's like they're both falling. One of them falls in the water, and the other one the other one lands directly on his face.
Fucking neck just done.
But I also love that as he's falling, you get that the close up of him falling, and then sort of a different perspective of his face coming towards the camera, and then we do that long cut of him just that super wide shot of him just hitting him a little.
I kind of wanted to make a gif of it because it was actually kind of crunchy. It was gross of him. It was a pretty rough landing.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah, you can see the bend in his body. It's
for a kids movie. I was just like, oh, that's you realize he is dead. They really put a stamp on it.
Yeah. As much as we would have loved a super shredder General Mandible to come out being like, this is my colony now. No, he's dead. He died.
No. I kind of loved a
Me too.
Sickening fall.
Yeah, a crunchy. You broke your back and neck and face. That's great.
I wanted to ask you guys if you thought that the reason why this movie wasn't longer was because of them.
Because it's a kids movie. 100% because it's a kids movie.
Yeah,
kids movie.
Oh my god! Hold on a second. I had to go back and rewatch that crunch, and he bends backwards.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah,
it's
holy
gross.
shit! And it happens. It's a wide shot, and as he keeps falling, and he just hits that branch. Oh my god! I didn't track that at all.
Oh, it's gnarly as fuck. Yeah.
It's my favorite part in the whole movie outside of the ants go marching one by one and the acid spitting termites.
Holy shit.
Yeah. There was some pretty violent
changed.
I guarantee you there's a version of that fall where a bunch of bug guts fly into the air, like squirt, like ant guts.
The only thing splat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am curious that like I was just saying. So Steve says because it's a kids movie, but kids movies are typically longer. Do you think that the movie was shorter because
kids movies are almost always 90 minutes. That's almost like this. That's the standardized length. Yeah. And that's just because that they for many years determined the maximum amount of time that a child can watch a movie and hold attention without having to go to the bathroom or get bored and start screaming in a movie theater is 90 minutes. And I mean, it's a good length, and our brains, especially our generation, have been trained on it. So it's enough time to get a satisfying story without the sort of strenuousness of additional content on top of it. But you're never going to see a kids movie that's a Lord of the Rings length, when you go see Return of the King in theaters, and by the beginning of the third act you're like, my ass is numb. I
went to see Return of the King on mushrooms and fell asleep. So
I saw Return of the King 3 times, and by the third time I brought a pillow with me, and the person's like, you can't just come sleep. I'm like, it's for my butt. I
went to see Dark Knight Rises for a second time, and I was like, I don't need this. I'm doing this.
Is that one too? I can't remember. I guess it's pretty long.
It's 2.5 hours.
Right. That's the same.
It's also not the best one of the 3, in my opinion.
I did see a screening of 2001: A Space Odyssey that had an intermission.
Yeah.
And I did 4 grams of mushrooms
In the intermission?
No, at the start of the movie.
Oh God!
When the lights
Wait,
came up for the
mushrooms are wearing
intermission, you were probably freaking out. Like,
Yeah.
I brought it. It was in a thermos, and I chugged the thermos at the end of the initial like prehistoric sequence.
Right.
So when they throw the bone up in the air and it turns into the
You're
space
like,
station,
I can't handle
was
the
like,
ape.
"Go, go, 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 go."
I cannot be on mushrooms for the apes because that's going to set a bad tone for the rest of this trip.
Oh yeah. Well, I did have a headache for about a month after that. Like I literally think it broke something.
That's
in my
a movie
brain.
that I love that movie, but at the same time, that's another one that I have some trouble revisiting, especially like the sequence at the end that's like 20 fucking minutes of just light beams where I'm like, okay, I get
the Stargate sequence. Yeah.
The first time I saw that movie, I was watching it at my buddy Spencer's house, and that moment was happening, and I was over at his parents were kind of very strict when we were younger, and his mom came downstairs and was like, Spencer, it's time for bed. And I'm like still in there, and it's like like the crazy lights and stuff. We're like, ooh. And his mom was like, what are you watching? Like she saw we were watching a movie and did not,
high as fuck,
because you're like, it's not ending, right? Because it goes for so long that I guess she was expecting the music and the visuals to calm down for a minute so she could speak to us, but it just kept going, and then she eventually just walked away. We're like,
I remember at the end of that movie coming down off mushrooms and feeling like I had just gotten through like a 2-hour dentist appointment, just like
yeah.
Well, do you know what's interesting, Pat, is when I go to the dentist for a 2-hour dentist appointment for a cleaning, I fall asleep during the cleaning because it's soothing to me.
Oh,
that's
weird
insane.
Thing.
Yeah.
I'm literally the character from the the Little Shop of Horrors. He's a pervert.
Didn't you told us that? You told me and Derek that the other night, and both of our reactions were, what the fuck? Because me and Derek both have like hyper awareness of people touching our faces, whereas Jason falls asleep while someone's
clean between them teeth, girl.
One of the worst experiences I ever had was getting 2 wisdom teeth out while still fully conscious. Like I got local anesthesia, so it was numb, but I remember every second of it.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, that was basically a horror movie.
I got my wisdom teeth out and I did the full sleepy time. That I've never had that before, and I gotta tell you, I felt like I was dead. Where it's like, when you are asleep and you're aware of being asleep.
Yes.
Like where it's like you wake up and your body recognizes the passage of time. When you get anesthesia like that, it's like you died. It's like you got turned off and on again. It's kind of fucking scary.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I woke up during my wisdom teeth and I remember it, and it was like the dentist was like, oh fuck, go back to sleep.
You got his foot on your chest.
Oh, you're feeling sleepy.
Also, my friend Fiona came to pick me up, and we were sitting in the waiting room, and they brought me a wheelchair, and I got in and I put my hoodie on, and they started wheeling me through the dentist office, and I just was doing a Palpatine voice, being like, yes, do it. Take me down to the sub basement with the parking lot where the car is.
Okay, guys.
Okay, no, all right, no more Palpatine.
That's
unlimited power.
Unlimited power. That's the end of the movie Antz. Now I think that we should go into our Home Alone of it all, our final thoughts and our ratings. And Pat, since you're new, I'll explain it to you.
If you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home Alone
when
of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone of
I
it
really
all
gotta
happens?
know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
Okay, so final thoughts, easy. Rating, easy. The Home Alone of it all.
We should do Home Alone one day and then see what the Home Alone of it all is.
I'll tell you what it is, because I'm going to tell you what the Home Alone of it all of Home Alone is right now. In the movie Home Alone, when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint, when I was a kid, I was like, that's the moment of the movie I'm there to see. That's what I want to see. I want to see him destroy these wet bandits. So what me and Steve over the years now have sort of posited is every movie sort of has that moment, has that sequence that you're there to see. This one might be a little different because of the nature of the film, but the Home Alone of it all is, it can really be boiled down to the part of the movie that you're there to see. Sometimes it is also your favorite part of the movie, and sometimes it is just the third act. Steve,
It's
I'll
never
have
the
you.
third act for me.
I know,
Yeah.
but you were the one that said that originally. But Steve, you go first.
No, I didn't. I think every time you say that, I was like, a lot of movies have more than 3 acts. Some movies have fucking 8 acts.
That's fair.
Anyway, yeah, I can give you the example, but I've already said it 1,000 times. It's the fucking termite battle, man. That is the moment that I was there to see that I didn't know existed from trailers and stuff like that. If I had to bring it down to like a Home Alone moment, I guess it would be when they escape. But the moment that is the moment that gripped me and made me realize that I'm watching something that is like truly different and cool and sort of a bridge movie, not necessarily a movie for kids and not necessarily a movie for adults, but something that can ease you into something else. Pat, you mentioned Verhoeven earlier, where it's like, I did watch Starship Troopers the same year it came out as well, and I connected with Antz, and I guarantee you that Antz made Starship Troopers a little bit more digestible for me because of Antz. Like, because I saw the ants getting melted by acid, I could watch a guy get his torso cut in half by a flying insect monster on whatever the fucking, what's that planet called in Starship Troopers? Kuatu or something like that, or is Kuato? That's another Verhoeven movie. Kuato.
That's a different, yeah.
That's anyway. Yeah, that's absolutely my favorite part. But it's also the Home Alone of it all for me. My thoughts on the movie are that I don't think it's necessarily a great movie, and it's not something that I would recommend to everybody. But if you do have trouble with Woody Allen movies and connecting with them and don't necessarily like them, then this is probably the movie for you in terms of like saying that you've watched Woody Allen movies. It makes me think of the bit in The Office where Michael Scott is talking about Woody Allen movies, and then he says, well, the only Woody Allen movie I've ever seen is Antz. and then he says, but I prefer A Bug's Life, which is quite funny. But this movie it has charm, and it is goofy and funny at times, and there's humor in there that was above my head when I was a kid that I understand now, and it works. And I think structurally as a film, it's not inept, it's capable, and it tells a story that's satisfying even though you hate the fucking main character. In terms of what's happening and the resolution, I think it's fine. Do I love it? No. Did I love it when I was a kid? Yes. But I was hoping that I could understand it through the conversation with the two of you as to why. And I think it just felt like I was watching a grown-up movie and made me feel smart when I was 9. And watching it now, I realized that that's probably what it was, is that like you feel like you're watching a grown-up movie while you're watching a kid's movie. So it makes you feel a little bit smarter than when you watch something like A Bug's Life, where it's just trying to like yank on your heartstrings the entire time. This movie is challenging you a little bit and making you think about what the characters are thinking about and introducing you to the idea of imperfection in a protagonist, which doesn't really exist in a lot of kids movies on this level. You know, there'll be characters that are imperfect that have to grow throughout a movie, but this movie gives him no growth, and he's just a terrible person. And I think even as kids, we recognize this, right? Like he's the hero of the movie, but he's not good. He's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. Which is complicated for a kid to have to digest when watching something like this. But then we've got termite fights and like clear cut evil villains and heel turns and things that are satisfying narratively. So if I had to give this a rating, I would give this head and shoulders Danny Glover's performance in this movie. That's my rating, is head and shoulders above the rest. Danny Glover's performance in this movie.
So head.
Just a head, yeah. Just a head.
That's great. I'll just because Pat's new here, I'll go next. We can have the guest go last. My Home Alone of it all this week was from Insectopia to the end. I like that segment of the movie. Honestly, Z fucking sucks, but I do like the resolution of them finding Insectopia and then going back, reverse heroes journey, but in such a fast way. Like they just fast travel back to the colony.
They
And
did. They opened the map and they're like,
Yeah.
you want to fast travel back to the colony?
But the whole thing with this mega tunnel being revealed to be going up to the water well, like up to the probably just a puddle. I really enjoyed that segment. My final thoughts are this: I don't really care for this movie. I do like the message and the score, but the story was really basic. Woody Allen can fuck off, and the animation style and color palette makes me feel really gross. The animation admittedly isn't too bad for the era, but it just makes me feel weird and bad. I also couldn't keep my eyes open for it and had to watch it in pieces, not out of necessity, but because my brain couldn't stomach it. I do think the cast is insane, though, and should be studied. How did they get all of these huge names? I also remember this movie having video game tie-ins. And
the answer, Spielberg. Steven Spielberg called them and said, listen.
I also remember this movie having video game tie-ins and action figures and being pretty popular at the time overall. And I'm not going to change my rating, and I think last week's movie that I gave a 2 out of 5 for Lost in Space, I give this movie a 1.8 out of 5. I give this movie a what if we're just like these tiny little things and we're all just like part of this whole other huge universe that's like so big we don't even know exists.
Sorry. I got a message. I was checking my messages. I got a message from Z and he said, just move to the big city. Ah, jeez.
And I will also give this movie, Steve's impression of Woody Allen is actually John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
No.
More like John Travolta in The Simpsons.
Yeah. That's true.
But
he's a lot. He just kind of goes like, I don't know. That's better, right? That's kind of
there.
Better.
You go.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, you gotta. It's John Travolta sped up by
more neurotic and more sped up.
Yeah, I've been living here my whole life, and I just don't know. Since I was alive, I'm attracted to my stepdaughter. What do I do? Allegedly.
Again, not alleged.
Yeah, he married her.
Been proven.
He did marry her and have children.
It's true.
So if I'm getting the hang of this, I would say the Home Alone of it all for me was the picnic sequence, was getting to experience the new medium of 3D animation and getting the scope of it, which was the huge human leg and the foot and kind of everything in relation to that, which you couldn't really get with traditional hand-drawn animation before that. So that huge, exciting sequence where he's like swinging from shoelaces and, jumping from shoe to shoe, Indiana Jones style, was kind of what I was there for. And what amazed me as a kid was the potential of this new medium. As far as the movie goes, in a weird series of 3D bug movies at the time, it was, I think, visually mediocre, but conceptually probably the better one. I liked the commentary that it had. I liked the adult-oriented jokes that kind of pushed the envelope in a time when, this new animation studio was kind of testing the waters against, Disney's more family-friendly items. And as far as, I didn't like it mostly because, for reasons that we've been over, the protagonist fucking sucked. I didn't think any of the main characters, the protagonist, the princess, none of them had any real character development. I think the movie was really propped up by a lot of the tertiary characters. And and I was happy that they developed Christopher Walken's character a little bit more. I don't think it'll go down in history as like groundbreaking. It was the start of a new wave of 3D films, and I think it was DreamWorks kind of trying to find its footing and find a niche, and it hadn't quite got there by the end of this movie, but certainly got there by the end of Shrek. So
And it fucking rocked it in Ice Age, am I right? No, just kidding.
Kung Fu Panda, my friend.
I mean, Kung Fu Panda 2 is in my
Panda's
top 10
kicking
favorite
the
movies.
shit out of people.
I'm gonna say it. Top 10 movies of all time. Kung Fu Panda 2 is in that list. I fucking love that movie. Anyway,
Godfather 2, Kung Fu Panda 2.
Right there, neck and neck, number 8.
Kung Fu Panda. All right.
Yeah.
God Fu Panda.
And I don't know, if we're talking like ratings, I personally am a huge fan of Roger Ebert's 4-star rating. And I would say I'd give it
foreskin.
No,
I'm so sorry.
Not in reference to Woody Allen. Pretty sure he's brisk. I'd give it like 1 star, 1.5 stars tops out of a 4-star if we're doing, Roger Ebert. Because I think it was on to something, didn't quite get there, was better than another pretty mediocre entry in A Bug's Life, but still not great. But yeah, I don't know. I came into this like really, I was like, oh, I'm going to be able to talk about communism. It's going to be whatever. And then I watched the movie and I was like, this is Ayn Rand's wet dream. Like, this is a weird Paul Verhoeven-esque subversive. What the fuck is even going on here?
That would.
I would love to see.
Paul Verhoeven should make an animated movie. I wonder what that would be. It would be a mess. So many squibs. Animated squibs everywhere.
Have you guys ever done a Ralph Bakshi film?
No.
Have you seen any Street Fight, Fritz the Cat, Fire and Ice?
Oh,
Ralph Bakshi shit was
Fritz the Cat.
Well, that's because you're a fucking pervert.
Yeah, check out
World.
Street Fight. Cool World was also fucking awesome.
Original Lord of the Rings.
I think we had Cool World slotted for something at some point, but we didn't end up doing it, which I regret because I do want to revisit that one. But yeah,
I think a Ralph Bakshi month would be awesome because Fire and Ice, Cool World, Lord of the Rings, Fritz the Cat, and Wizards.
But I would also recommend Street Fight or in some circles, depending on the rating
Heavy
system.
Traffic is a great movie. American Pop. American Pop.
It was Heavy Traffic, Street Fight, or Coonskin. Like it had 3 titles depending on where it was released because it was that risque. But yeah, Ralph Bakshi is a fucking titan of adult animation in North America.
Doesn't like one of those movies start with just like a guy, like a construction worker, dog man, like pissing off the side of a building? I can't remember.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Fully shows his dong. You're like, holy moly!
Yeah, okay, that's what we're in for. But he was releasing animated films in a time when like Mario Van Peebles was doing like Sweetback's Badass Song and like.
Right. I watched Fire and Ice.
Robert Downey was doing his original shit. Like Fire and Ice was one of his most tame.
Yeah,
Herbie Picar as well should be mentioned in the.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that was a revolutionary period of American animation. So like, I think there's definitely worth some discussion and definitely some fucking interesting.
I'm there, man. I'm there, man.
You guys like cartoon nipples?
You ain't no jive. No, I'm not going to finish that line.
All right, it's communism time.
True. Let's go to plugs. Oh,
we're gonna
cheer for this man. Did you give him a cheer?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you for that. Very insightful. Very well thought out.
As I said at the start of the show, I knew that I was going to call you back to the coach. you know, so come back anytime that you
Happy to be here anytime.
Well,
Seriously,
we've got you slotted for Coneheads and I don't know, Ice and Fire, maybe.
literally anything by Ralph Bakshi,
World.
Coneheads. You listen, man. You could slot me anywhere that you fucking want. If we're talking about movies, I got something in the chamber guaranteed. The fact that I could get we got 3 hours out of Antz.
It's true.
I mean, come on.
We can get 3 hours out of anything if you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's do our plugs.
All right,
It's been an absolute pleasure. Frankly, I don't have a ton going on right now.
Oh wait, I have to play the plug.
Oh.
All right, let me just plug this in right here and.
Okay, now
That's
that
all right.
guy's dead.
Steven, did you do all these bumpers?
I did.
Of course
It
you did.
sounds like
me.
this is all his voice. Every single one of them. You did every. Listen,
I did
they're
one.
great.
I did one we used to use, and Steve was like, "No, I got a better one." Ding.
I mean, it is better.
Yeah. I'm
guy.
fine with it.
This guy.
I do a lot of voices over here. So, Pat King, what do you got going on? Tell us about your life and what you.
Yeah, I
want to
know. I mean, you can follow me on Twitch at the Eldritch Abbot. I have not been streaming a ton, but now that I've got a job that doesn't leave me up until 3 a.m. every day, I've got some more time to, dedicate to streaming and entertaining. So hopefully getting some writing projects on the go. Other than that, mostly just doing my thing and enjoying talking nerdy shit with like-minded people. So we'll more than likely be back. So
cool.
Thanks again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We would love to come play video games with you on your channel as well. That'd be fun.
Oh my god, yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, hopefully going to pump the setup real soon, and yeah, multiplayer stuff I like doing, but also I'm a very old school single player gamer, so it's just a lot of just shooting the shit while I think Final Fantasy VI was a big one that I wanted to do playthrough again. Haven't revisited for years.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we'll work something out, and like I said, hopefully going to be a reoccurring guest on this podcast because holy shit, do I love talking movies.
Well, you're banned from this show, so
and you're done.
But I'm starting a new show where me and you host it together, and Jason can fuck off. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, goodbye. This is my career.
But you should join our Valheim server where we just argue a bunch.
Yeah,
I do have Valheim. I will add it. I think I uninstalled it from my PC, but it's in my Steam library. It's there.
Well, I have a perpetual server that's going to go up right after this episode, so I'll give you the login info, and you can come play with us. So.
Well, if you get a chance, I also play Project Zomboid. Which is it's a fun little survival
I'm aware of
horror
it. I know
game. If you have that, we'll figure it out. We're on Discord.
We were also thinking about playing Police Officer Simulator and RPing as a bunch of assholes.
You were thinking about that, and
I almost picked it up yesterday because I was like, how do I fucking make this into a problem?
Yeah. What I do is I walk around and I be very friendly, and I don't take.
Stop! You violated the law. That's all.
And then rape people.
And then I pull out my gun and I say, "Get your hands where I can see them. Let me see those hands."
And you're already shooting bullets.
You're right. Yeah. And then you plant drugs on minorities and arrest them for no reason.
So,
Steve, what do you got cooking, buddy? What's on the back burner this week?
Well, as always, you can find me on Darth Theorist, the theory channel where we discuss alternative branches of the Star Wars universe, where I do all of the narration as well as all the character voices. And I've been writing a bunch recently, which is kind of fun too. And then also the sister channel to that, which is the Three-Eyed Theorist, where we talk Game of Thrones and do that kind of stuff as well. We've got a couple of other things we've been thinking about recently, but we also have an open Discord now, which you can find through those YouTube channels and join us and talk about Star Wars and Game of Thrones all you want. You can suggest ideas for videos, and we'll take them into consideration and potentially turn them into videos, which is fun as well. It's an endless stream of people's crazy ideas. I'm writing one right now, which is very Dooku heavy, which is fun because I really like doing Dooku's voice. He's such a, I am here to cast. He's basically Dracula in the Star Wars universe, but also sort of a James Bond villain. So I wrote this script to be very like, he goes into hiding and he's like, now I basically have made a James Bond villain base. Jedi, come
That's
join
the versatility of Christopher Lee right there.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Absolutely.
But also Stanlan, which I did some voices for. One of our, previous and future guests has been on multiple times. He is he basically runs the Sonar Network. He came in here earlier, and they have a podcast series that's going out that is essentially he said pubes, the Sonar Podcast Network, and it's a narrative podcast, sort of like story structured through narrative and through audio, and it's kind of like an ongoing series, but it's to be released soon, very soon. But I do a couple of things for it, and it's going to be fun. And there's a lot of big name actors in that, such as John Hamm, John Waters, Bobby Moynihan. There's a bunch. I don't remember them all. I'm sorry. I'm not that big a part of it that I've memorized all this stuff. Maybe I should have a document in front of me, but it's fun. It's cool. And I would like to spread the word. This guy's got ants in his pants.
Listen, Styrogen. Let's go.
All right.
Ants.
Anyway, that's what I've got going on. And I hope you guys all go and check those things out.
Well, those things are all great. I'd like to tell everybody about this podcast. It happens each and every week right here on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Kick. At 8 p.m. on Thursday. We don't waver from that very often. Then what I do is I take the episode and I put it up on various social media platforms, mostly YouTube, mostly Spotify, in audio form and video on demand form. That usually happens Sunday morning. That's usually our new time that it goes up. As far as I go, I'm the announcer, the pro wrestling announcer for the local promotion here in Toronto called Super Kicked. We have a show coming up. Key to the City next Friday.
I'm going to be there. I'm going there with my friend Fiona, who picked me up for my dental surgery that we talked about earlier, and then also my friend Brian, who's been on the show before.
It's true. And Fiona should come on the show one time if they want to.
I don't think she would be. She wouldn't. Or maybe. I don't think I've ever asked her, but maybe.
But I'm the announcer there. We do a great show every month, and it's at the Great Hall here in Toronto. And also on YouTube. You can find the live stream on YouTube afterwards, and at the same time as it's Key to the City, which means it's basically Money in the Bank. We have 6 people get in the ring, and they climb a ladder to get a key. And when they have that key, they can cash it in for a championship.
Is it a giant oversized novelty key?
No, it's a regular sized tiny
what
key.
The fuck?
I know.
Need to spring for a giant oversized novelty key. That
I don't have any control over that. I'd also like to promote the fact that coming soon, coming down the pipe, Tag at the Turnbuckle, a podcast that Worldmind and I are going to be doing, a wrestling podcast. And also I'd like to promote that Worldmind's coming to Super Kicked as well. It's going to be a big time.
What?
Big
Worldmind. I'll see you there, pal. Actually, Chris, maybe I'll talk to you afterwards, but I think a couple of my friends are meeting at my house. If you want to come earlier, we can hang out for a bit. I'll contact you.
Yes.
I'm jealous. I gotta get into Toronto.
Come to Toronto, Pat. Playing Pat, what up?
Damn.
But I would like to thank you, Pat, for coming on the show tonight. And as we kind of sundown this episode, I don't know if that's
you need to stop saying sundown. Like,
I don't know.
I feel like
that means what you think it means.
Yeah, like what the heck is going on?
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But Pat, there's one question, and I'm pretty sure you know what to ask here, but there's one question that needs to be asked each and every week. And I think you know what question that is. Could you ask the question now for us?
Have you seen this one?
Well, close, but why don't you try again?
Hey, did you see this one?
I'm freaking out over here because I want to get to the ant colony, but I'm freaking out.
Who's that? That's Zed, right? That's not Z. That's Zed.
That's Zed. That's what Zed sounds like when he talks. Okay.
Zed's dead, baby.
Oh God. Zed's dead.
Say something else that's funny.
That was funny. That was funny enough. What do you want from?
And let me just get to the premise of your question that both of you have raised. I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once, but twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interests of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does, and this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards.